Hey everyone, Firescale Audiobooks here. If there's a novel you'd love to hear more of, you can support us on Patreon or Ko-fi. Depending on your tier, I'll make extra parts just for the stories you're most excited about. Usually I can only upload 4 to 5 parts of each novel, but with your support, we can go beyond that. And of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. It helps more than you know.
As the hatch closed, Lin lay inside the instrument. However, unlike the rudimentary devices of the past, this one was clearly far more advanced. A red light scanned his body, completing the overall blood and chi analysis. The hatch slowly opened and Lin stepped out. He saw Chu Kuang standing beside the monitor, his mouth agape, his face filled with shock. "Senior Chu, what's wrong?" Lin looked at the man standing there like a wooden stake and couldn't help but feel curious. What could have made this researcher so lost in thought? Could it be that his innate demonic body had been detected, but as a reward from the system, the current device should have little chance of detecting it right? After all, martial arts have developed for so many years. I've never heard of such a thing as physique before. Just to be on the safe side, Lin Lei slowly stepped forward and stood behind Chu Kuang. Following the other's gaze, he understood why the researcher had that expression. The display screen showed a line of numbers: basic chi and blood 495, peak chi and blood 499. The difference between basic chi and peak chi and blood is only 4 points. This means that for Lin Lei, every seemingly ordinary attack he makes is actually the full force strike of a peak first-tier martial artist. Tusk, so tempting. Looking at these numbers, Chu Kuang seemed to be looking at the most exquisite thing in the world. He even licked his dry lips, his eyes revealing a look of longing. In his more than 20 years of experience, he had never seen anyone's basic chi and peak chi and blood so close. After all, even a 9th-level martial artist can't maintain a constant surge of chi and blood. Leaving aside the burden on their body, the sheer consumption of chi and blood is enough to overwhelm them. Each attack requires a long recovery period. This is why martial artists above the 8th level rarely use their skills, unless it's a battle of life and death. Using such a national treasure would be a huge waste. "Your base chi and blood is 495. I really want to dissect you." Noticing Lin Lei behind him, Chu Kuang suddenly turned around, his eyes flashing with a terrifying light. Faced with his frightening gaze, even Lin Lei felt his hair stand on end. It's true that the opponent isn't strong, but those eyes seem to see right through him. Ahem, Senior Chu. "Shall we continue the test?" He quickly coughed twice, afraid the other person might have some bad intentions towards him. Hearing Lin Lei's words, Chu Kuang turned around, his eyes burning with excitement. "Sure, come here." As he spoke, he opened the glass door of a small room. Inside was something that looked like a wooden stake, but it was covered with a dense array of sensors. "This is the latest detection device, much more accurate than the ones outside. It can even detect your blood and chi flow through your exertion. When you attack with all your might, the same force will bounce back, instantly detecting all your values." Chu Kuang gave a brief explanation, then quickly left the room, looking at Lin Lei with excitement. Although we don't know the extent of Lin Lei's other stats, just judging by his chi and blood value alone, we can tell that Lin Lei's other aspects are definitely not weak. As for how far he can go, it all ultimately depends on Lin Lei's performance. After Chu Kuang left the room, Lin Lei focused his attention on the stake in front of him. "Start." A prompt suddenly popped up on the display screen. Lin Lei nodded, making his choice without any hesitation. "Yes." After making the choice, the display screen instantly went black, leaving only cold numbers counting down. 5. 0.4, 0.3, 0.2, 0.1. Just as the number 1 slowly disappeared, Lin Lei's fist struck the stake. Boom, a muffled thud resounded, and Lin Lei felt his blood surge. He had concentrated almost all his strength into that one punch. Even so, the stake only swayed slightly, without even a scratch. It's so hard. Seeing this, he couldn't help but feel a little curious. He was about to look down when he suddenly remembered Chu Kuang's words and immediately went to defend himself. The next second, an equally powerful force traveled up his arm, almost making Lin Lei think he was being hit head-on by a large truck. However, his body had been modified by the system. He adapted to the force in an instant and absorbed it completely. Even so, the inertia caused Lin Lei to stagger backward, almost hitting the wall. "Phew, this thing is really powerful." Lin Lei rubbed his sore wrists, a look of surprise in his eyes. He hadn't expected a machine to be able to output such force. However, although the force was great, it didn't cause any real damage. "Come out." After waiting in the room for a while, Lin Lei heard Chu Kuang's voice coming from the loudspeaker. However, the other person's voice was very unusual, or rather, it carried curiosity and doubt. He opened the door and went out of the room, then went to the machine and looked at Chu Kuang. The researcher gave him a deep look, then frowned. Your situation is somewhat special. At least I've never seen a case like yours. Chu Kuang's voice was low, and his tone made Lin Lei unsure of his true thoughts. After speaking, he moved aside to let Lin Lei stand. Seeing this, Lin Lei just wanted to know what was going on. He stood there and was instantly drawn to his own data. Punching power 5582 kg, reaction speed 0. 0.1 seconds. Resistance 5582 kg, not at the limit. Recovery time 15.7 seconds. Data matching, no matching data found globally. Please remeasure. After seeing these data, Lin Lei fell silent. He only wanted to get the system's reward, but he didn't expect to go too far. Leaving aside the other 3 data points, just in terms of punching power alone, he already had more than double the 2000 kg punching power of a peak first-tier martial artist. What does 5582 kg of punching power mean? That's almost the full force strike of a mid-stage second-tier martial artist, and he was only a first-tier martial artist. Such data is unprecedented, not only in the entire Great Xia Kingdom, but also in all publicly available data worldwide. Senior Chu, I have superhuman strength, so my strength is a little bit greater. That explanation should be reasonable, right? Lin Lei looked at Chu Kuang, an embarrassed smile on his face. Originally, I just wanted to simply get the reward, but now this kind of data is impossible to hide, not even from Chu Kuang, let alone Chen Pajin. After today, I'll probably come into the sights of some important figures. Hearing this, Chu Kuang looked at Lin Lei as if he were an idiot, then silently studied the data again. To be honest, if he weren't outmatched by Lin Lei, he really wanted to dissect him to see if this guy was a humanoid monster. Fine, whatever will be, will be. System, where's my reward? Seeing this, Lin Lei could only shake his head, then silently prayed to the system. Research series of quests completed. Congratulations on receiving the reward. Choose any magical beast. All magical beasts will appear in a reasonable manner. The host need not worry about anyone suspecting anything. Would you like to choose now? Yes. Linley thought about how he was currently in the Abyss Rift, and obtaining a magical beast seemed reasonable, so he simply chose to choose immediately. As this thought crossed Linley's mind, the system abruptly changed. Tier 1 Magical Beast Cubs, Fang Rat, Shadow Spider. Tier 2 Magical Beast Cubs, Flame Domain Wolf, Ice Wind Eagle. Tier 3 Magical Beast Cubs. Tier 8 Magical Beast Cubs. Desert Bear, 8-Winged Tyrannosaurus. Tier 9 Magical Beast Cubs, Radiant Black Dragon, Cosmic Emperor Dragon, Star-Devouring Azure Wolf. Cosmic Magical Beast Cubs, Unique. Endless Calamity Tiger, Supreme Holy Dragon Lord, Heavenly Phoenix, Prison-Suppressing Black Tortoise. Looking at the densely packed list of magical beasts displayed by the system, Linley swallowed hard. Although the system's reward wasn't what he expected, just a monster cub, it was still terrifying enough. Moreover, most importantly, above 9th-tier monsters, there were cosmic monsters. This was a rank no one had ever heard of. After all, while 8th and 9th-tier monsters were rare, they were not uncommon during Abyss explorations. For example, the Star-Devouring Wolf, a 9th-tier monster, had been recorded several times in the Abyss of the Great Xia Kingdom. However, cosmic monsters were something that probably no one had ever heard of. System, are there only these 4 cosmic monsters? Looking at the hundreds of other ranks of monsters, and comparing them to the 4 cosmic monsters, Linley couldn't help but feel curious. Just how strong were these 4 monsters? So that's why it can be singled out as a rank. Cosmic beasts can also be seen as masters of their respective abysses. Their fall leads to the abyss invading other planes. Currently, all 4 cosmic beasts have perished, leaving only countless bloodline remnants. Each cosmic beast is unique. Once it reaches its peak strength, it will suppress the growth of other beasts of its kind. Please make a choice. The system's cold voice rang out, but hearing these words, Linley's hair stood on end. The fall of the Abyss Masters leading to the Abyss invasion. Could this refer to the anomaly 100 years ago? Moreover, all 4 cosmic beasts are dead. If there's nothing strange behind this, Linley simply doesn't believe it. I want to see information about the 4 cosmic beasts. Although the system gave him a choice, but Linley still decided to see what these 4 cosmic magical beasts were capable of. Endless Calamity Tiger, adult. Primarily focused on slaughter, possessing the ultimate single-target attack power. Its terrifying killing intent can even cause a ninth-tier magical beast to explode. Supreme Holy Dragon Lord Adult, primarily focused on order. Its dragon might is overwhelming, and all things submit to it. It can command all magical beasts of lower rank. Heavenly Phoenix Adult, primarily focused on destruction. Its terrifying group destructive power can even evaporate the vast ocean. Hell-suppressing Black Tortoise Adult, primarily focused on defense. Its powerful body can even bear the weight of the abyss, and it will not suffer any harm even if it forcibly passes through a spatial rift. Upon seeing the information about these 4 magical beasts, Lin Lei gasped in shock. Any one of these 4 cosmic beasts, if placed outside, would absolutely crush the entire world, yet here they are quietly waiting. Although it's not certain they can be raised to adulthood and might even lose their chance to grow completely because other of their kind become lords of the abyss. But for a martial artist, there is no risk-free journey. I want the cosmic beast, the endless tiger. Although he really wanted to take all 4 cosmic beasts at once, Lin Lei knew he didn't have the resources or energy. While the other 3 beasts were good, the endless tiger was the one that suited his taste the most. Years of ridicule and sarcasm taught him that only immense strength could earn the respect of others. Selection successful, endless tiger cub successfully distributed. You will encounter this next time the host hunts a magical beast. Please look forward to it. The system notification sounded slowly. Lin Lei finally understood why the system hadn't told him to worry about being suspected. It had already thought of everything for him. He breathed a sigh of relief and then looked up at Chu Kuang. The researcher's brows were still furrowed, but at least he hadn't noticed his earlier strange behavior. Senior Chu, shall we go out first? After all, it's still the martial arts examination. Lin Lei offered a casual reminder. Although his score was definitely far ahead of the others, he still needed to go out and kill a magical beast to obtain the final tiger. Hearing his voice, Chu Kuang finally looked away from the data that had been puzzling him. Okay. Chu Kuang pondered for a moment before agreeing. In fact, he really wanted to thoroughly study Lin Lei here, but after analyzing the data just now, he could conclude that Lin Lei had too many secrets, and even Lin Lei himself was a huge treasure. Let alone Chu Kuang alone, even if he brought a research team, they probably wouldn't be able to find any results in a short time. So it's better to understand the data first and then analyze it later. Seeing Chu Kuang agree, Lin Lei breathed a sigh of relief. The two left the research institute and returned to the martial arts camp. Many students had already returned to rest, and Lin Lei could hear discussions about himself on the way. Is that guy named Lin Lei really that exaggerated? He killed more than 70 first-tier magical beasts. Haha, is this some rich kid causing trouble? Even the top students at No. 1 high school probably couldn't do that. Do you really think a student from number 13 high school can? It's a conspiracy. I heard General Chen and Lin Lei's family are old acquaintances. He probably pulled a lot of strings behind the scenes. I'm going to appeal after this is over. I don't believe Chen Pajin can cover everything up. Most students were skeptical of Lin Lei's abilities. After all, they knew all too well what kind of students number 13 high school had. However, one person knew that the exaggerated descriptions of Lin Lei were not false, and that person was Huang Chesheng. How did this guy become so strong? The thought of what he had done to Lin Lei terrified him, making him tremble and unable to even stand. No wonder he was so confident back then. He was always taking advantage of others. No, I have to tell my father about this. Everything is still under control now, but if Lin Lei grows up, then I. Just thinking about his fate filled Huang Chesheng with fear. He knew there was no possibility of reconciliation between him and Lin Lei, so he only had one solution. That was to make Lin Lei disappear from this world completely. In an instant, Huang Chesheng made up his mind. After the martial arts examination, he would make Lin Lei vanish from this world. Only in this way. Only then could Huang Chesheng have a chance to survive. However, just as Huang Chesheng was thinking this, Lin Lei had already arrived at Chen Pajin's room. General, this is the situation. I think it's necessary to recruit Lin Lei into the Demon Suppression Army. There are many things about him that we can study. Standing before Chen Pajin, Chu Kuang revealed all the data he had just obtained. When he heard that the difference between Lin Lei's basic and peak chi and blood was only 4 points, Chen Pajin was already somewhat shocked. However, when he learned that Lin Lei could unleash the power of a second-tier martial artist with a single punch, this general, who had seen countless people, suddenly stood up from the table, looking at Lin Lei with burning eyes. Excellent, excellent. Truly a once-in-a-century genius in Hejiang City. Chen Pajun made no attempt to hide the admiration in his tone. Chen Pajun looked at Lin Lei with satisfaction in his eyes. Lin Lei, you've really surprised me. However, while I, Chen Pajun, appreciate talent, I also know to respect your choice. The conditions I mentioned at the beginning still stand, but whether you stay in the Demon Suppression Army in the future depends on your own decision. Saying this, Chen Pajun walked to Lin Lei's side, staring at him with a complex expression. You continue with the martial arts examination. No one can predict the future, but if you can stay in the Demon Suppression Army, I, Chen Pajun, will give you the best resources no matter what. He patted Lin Lei on the shoulder, then turned around and took Chu Kuang to a room for a private talk. This incident made him realize that although martial artists are very strong, there are still many untapped possibilities. If everyone could be as terrifying as Lin Lei, then what would the abyss be? Seeing this, Lin Lei could only shrug and turn to leave. He wasn't capable of participating in things at that level yet. He'd rather focus on improving his own strength. Fine, I'll go hunt a magical beast first. The most important thing now is to obtain the endless tiger. Leaving the room, he took a deep breath and headed out of the martial arts camp. However, along the way, many people recognized Lin Lei. Students who knew he sold magical beast corpses immediately surrounded him, pleading with burning eyes. Brother Lin Lei, help me kill a magical beast. I'll pay 50,000, no, 100,000, just one first-tier magical beast will do. Brother Lin Lei, I need the corpses of 2 Tier 1 magical beasts, 200,000 in total. Just name your price and I'll take them right away. Lin Lei, we were classmates in high school, can you help your old classmate? Please, without magical beasts, my future is truly ruined. These people are either offering money or playing the emotional card, all aiming to get Lin Lei to help. After all, the others don't have the strength, and they're all still trying to gain more points. But Lin Lei is different. If he had actually hunted a Tier 2 magical beast, he would definitely agree to such a small favor. However, they've chosen the wrong time. What Lin Lei wants most right now isn't money, but the cubs of the endless tiger. Faced with such a treasure, no amount of money could sway him. Get out of the way. He waved his hand impatiently. This group had been following him all this way. They found it amusing, and he was getting annoyed by their noise. However, even so, the group remained oblivious, huddled together as if their inability to graduate was entirely Lin Lei's fault. HMPH. Seeing this, Lin Lei snorted coldly and stomped his foot hard on the ground. A crack instantly spread outwards. Those around him trembled at the sight and retreated to either side. If you follow again, don't blame me for being impolite. Lin Lei's icy gaze swept over the surrounding people, then he turned and left. These people think they're afraid of moral blackmail, but Lin Lei has no morals to begin with. Giving up your seat to the elderly, respecting the old, and caring for the young, it's none of his business. When he was down on his luck, even stray dogs would bite him. Now that he's risen to power, he cares about no one except his parents. Including Chen Pajun, it's all just an exchange of interests. As for subsequent research cooperation, that depends on whether there's any further exchange of interests. The intimidated crowd dared not move, and Lin Lei easily walked out of the martial arts camp. Even so, quite a few people followed, hoping to pick up any scraps left behind him. Since Lin Lei wouldn't help, they had no choice but to resort to this tactic. After walking 20 or 30 kilometers, Lin Lei finally saw a magical beast drinking water beside a forest. This is a pack-dwelling magical beast called the Hardclaw Wolf. Its stats are excellent in every aspect, especially its claws, which can tear through steel and pierce through the body of a first-tier martial artist. Generally speaking, even a peak first-tier martial artist wouldn't want to face such a being, but fortunately, Lin Lei is no ordinary martial artist. Since that's the case, then it's you. Lin Lei, seeing an opportunity, was overjoyed and charged directly at the Hardclaw Wolf. Although it's a pack-dwelling magical beast, this area had been cleared by the Demon Suppression Army. The last time they encountered the bucktooth rat leader, it was because the rat was hiding underground, but the Hardclaw Wolf didn't have that kind of ability. Awuo. Noticing Lin Lei, the Hardclaw Wolf's eyes flashed with ferocity. A few days ago, its own pack was scattered by humans, and now it can finally turn the tables on them. It roared, and then its 2 hard claws went straight for Lin Lei's vital points. Look, Lin Lei is fighting it. Hiss, it's a hard-clawed wolf. The attack power of this kind of magical beast is even comparable to a second-tier magical beast. Do you think Lin Lei can beat it? Should we go help? I want to see if he can easily deal with a first-tier magical beast. If he can't even beat a first-tier magical beast, then the leader of the Bucktooth Rat must have been sent by the Demon Suppression Army. I'll risk my grades to report this. In an instant, the students who had followed all stopped. Their eyes were filled with curiosity as they looked at Lin Lei. They wanted to know whether the outrageous rumors about Lin Lei were true or false. Die. Huang Chusheng gritted his teeth, his eyes bloodshot as he stared at Lin Lei and the Hardclaw Wolf. To everyone's astonishment, Lin Lei and the Hardclaw Wolf collided. Bang, a muffled thud rang out. Lin Lei gripped the Hardclaw Wolf's paw, a faint smile on his face. Die. Lin Lei could even see the fear in the Hardclaw Wolf's eyes. His indifferent voice was like a death knell's pronouncement, making everyone who heard it feel enveloped by death. The next second, Lin Lei suddenly exerted force. The Hardclaw Wolf's forepaw was instantly broken, but before it could even howl, Lin Lei was already close enough to close the distance. Ninefold thunder force. A monstrous force struck the Hardclaw Wolf's heart, instantly shattering its fragile heart, leaving it lifeless. Lin Lei kicked the Hardclaw Wolf away, his gaze turning coldly to the back. The group of students who had followed him trembled instantly, some even wetting their pants in fear, their hearts filled with terror. If Lin Lei could kill the Hardclaw Wolf in half a minute, killing them would be a piece of cake. However, at that moment, Lin Lei heard a faint sound. He glanced at the swaying grass beside him and knew immediately that the endless tiger cub, a gift from the system, was hiding inside. With a rustling of the grass, a tiny creature, no bigger than a palm, appeared before Lin Lei. It had just opened its eyes, its dark purple fur fluttering in the wind as it crawled haphazardly on the ground. Interesting. Although it was only at first glance, Lin Lei felt a connection between the creature and him. He stepped forward and picked up the endless tiger. Strangely enough, the endless tiger, which had been constantly howling, gradually quieted down as Lin Lei held it. Since that's the case, I'll call you Lin. Lin Lei smiled as he looked at the endless tiger lying in his hands. This was the cosmic beast the system had given him. With enough money to nurture it, becoming the Lord of the Abyss in the future wasn't impossible. However, at that moment, he suddenly felt the ground tremble as if something terrible had happened. Look up. A cry of alarm rang out and Lin Lei looked up. He saw that the previously stable abyssal rift space had been forcibly torn open, and an inexplicable pressure suddenly descended upon this space. And accompanying this pressure were countless demonic beasts rushing in from afar. The approaching horde of beasts stretched as far as the eye could see, an endless, surging tide that seemed poised to bury Lin Lei and his companions. Run. It's a beast tide. Someone shouted, jolting everyone from their daze. They immediately turned and ran. A beast tide, this was undoubtedly the most dangerous situation in the Abyss Rift, bar none. Those frenzied beasts would tear apart anything in their path, even at the cost of their lives. Damn it. Even Lin Lei, seeing these beasts, cursed and turned to run. Faced with such a tidal wave of attacks, not even a third-tier martial artist could survive, let alone someone like himself. He immediately turned and retreated towards the camp. The endless tiger in his hand opened its eyes, its golden pupils coldly scanning the surroundings. Lin Lei, being a peak first-tier martial artist, overtook the group of students in just a few breaths, fleeing towards the martial artist camp at an even faster speed. Damn it, Lin Lei, save me. I'll give you money, lots and lots of money. Don't abandon us. Aren't you very strong? Stay and hold off the magical beasts. Lin Lei, you're leaving us to die. I'll report this to General Chen. The horde of magical beasts behind them drew closer, and the students grew increasingly anxious. Some even began deliberately attacking those around them to try and escape. Some even planned to drag Lin Lei down with them. He even resorted to threats. However, Lin Lei ignored them, merely glancing at the crowd behind him before suddenly accelerating. Whoosh! As Lin Lei accelerated, countless plumes of dust rose up, completely obscuring the vision of the monster horde behind him. Although he didn't want to protect these creatures, for his own safety, Lin Lei had to delay the monster horde's attack as much as possible. Seeing some of the monsters drawn away by the dust, Lin Lei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. At full speed, he could reach the martial artist camp in just 10 minutes. Even if he couldn't stop the monsters, he could at least get the message across. With the demon suppression army deployed, these monsters shouldn't pose much of a threat. Few tilde. The number of demonic beasts behind him dwindled, and Lin Lei couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. No matter what, he saw a glimmer of hope for survival. However, at that moment, the endless tiger Liuliu in his hands suddenly cried out, "Is it hungry?" Seeing Liuliu's gaze fixed blankly on the ground, Lin Lei assumed it was hungry and wanted something to eat. But before he could confirm this, the ground suddenly trembled. Boom, a huge crack suddenly appeared in the ground, and a 2-meter-tall abyssal demonic beast forced its way out. Its massive claws were covered in black scales. Its scales gleamed faintly black in the sunlight. It's a blood demon flood dragon. Linley's eyes widened, filled with deep shock. Blood demon flood dragon, a second-tier abyss beast. Although it doesn't sound strong, it possesses an incredibly powerful talent, the ability to quickly devour enemy corpses to restore its stamina. Therefore, the blood demon flood dragon has devoured nearly 30 to 40% of the fallen soldiers of the demon suppression army. This is why the entire demon suppression army harbors such intense hatred for the blood demon flood dragon comrades. Not only failed to return alive, but were also subjected to such humiliation. No warrior could suppress the hatred in their hearts. Roar. The blood demon flood dragon roared. Then, writhing its 4 or 5 meter long body, it charged towards Lin Lei. Damn it! Seeing the blood demon flood dragon blocking his escape route, Lin Lei's face hardened with malice. With encirclement in front and pursuers behind, escape was impossible. I'll fight. Lin Lei roared. He put Liu Liu in his pocket, then enveloped his hands with the Taoti ring, Ninefold thunder force. With a single strike, Lin Lei unleashed his strongest attack. In this situation, he couldn't afford to hold back. Bang! The two collided, and even with Lin Lei's physical strength, he felt a tingling numbness in his arm. The blood demon flood dragon fared even worse. It thought it could easily kill Lin Lei, but it had met with a resounding defeat. Even its scales were shattered by Lin Lei's punch. Again. But Lin Lei gave it no chance to breathe, punching it again. The second strike of the Ninefold thunder force struck the same spot again, piercing straight through the blood demon dragon's body. His hand gripped the blood demon dragon's heart tightly. The life of this second-tier magical beast was now in his hands. With a squeeze, the once lively blood demon dragon instantly lost its life force and collapsed to the ground. Go! Seeing this, Lin Lei prepared to continue his escape. By this time, the horde of magical beasts was gradually catching up, and the students were being squeezed by the relentless pursuit, losing any chance of scattering and escaping. Fortunately, figures seemed to appear in the distance, which relieved Lin Lei. As long as reinforcements arrive, even though these demonic beasts are numerous, if he can terrify them, he has a chance to survive. Kill! A sharp voice rang out, and everyone looked up to see Chen Pajin standing solemnly on the flying vehicle. Behind him, soldiers of the demon suppression army, weapons in hand, charged at the command. They didn't hesitate and immediately engaged the horde of demonic beasts. Even facing these man-eating monsters, they remained calm. It's the demon suppression army, we're saved. Save me, my dad's an official, shut up. Are you trying to kill us all? Well. Seeing their savior arrive, the students, who were barely holding on, lost all their spirit and began to reveal their true emotions. Lin Lei, watching the demon suppression army fight the demonic beasts, actually had the thought of helping. His strength was not weak, and in this situation, killing demonic beasts naturally didn't require surrendering them. He had a treasure bead that might allow him to obtain quite a few demonic beast corpses, but just then he felt a lightness in his hand. Looking down, he saw that the end of Calamity Tiger, Liu Liu, had landed on the ground and was beginning to gnaw on the blood demon flood dragon's corpse. Can you even bite it? Lin Lei couldn't help but tease, but the next second, he discovered that Liu Liu wasn't chewing its food at all. It swallowed the meat whole, seemingly unconcerned about digestion, leaving Lin Lei dumbfounded. Because he could clearly sense that Liu Liu's corpse was growing rapidly. Just by devouring the blood demon flood dragon's forelimb, Liu Liu's body had doubled in size, and its health might even be approaching the threshold of a first-tier magical beast. This is impossible. Lin Lei's eyes widened in astonishment as he watched the endless tiger, Liu Liu, grow. Although its size had only increased slightly, it was still terrifying. Even a first-tier magical beast wouldn't grow this quickly, let alone the endless tiger, a top-tier magical beast. Could it be that the endless tiger can accelerate its growth simply by devouring? This thought sent a jolt through Lin Lei. If that were true, he could save a fortune. After all, while the corpses of abyssal magical beasts were valuable, just getting Liu Liu to grow, even if it didn't reach its full potential, just reaching the 7th tier would be terrifying enough. Most importantly, the abyssal beasts are virtually endless. Human exploration of the abyss is less than 1% complete, so this is an inexhaustible resource. Watching Liu Liu devour the entire blood demon flood dragon, Lin Lei licked his lips with burning desire. As long as there are enough beast corpses, he can raise Liu Liu into the most powerful abyssal beast, Roar Tilda. After eating and drinking its fill, Liuliu glanced back at Lin Lei, then nimbly jumped into his pocket and began to sleep soundly. Although its appetite was almost bottomless, it was still just a cub. Having absorbed so much blood and energy, it naturally needed to rest and digest. Seeing it fall asleep, Lin Lei immediately focused his attention on the horde of beasts before him. Without thinking, he charged straight in. Whether it's exchanging them for money or raising Liuliu, his current goal is to obtain a large number of monster corpses. Since the monsters in the Heijiang City Abyss Rift are not of high level, Lin Lei doesn't need to worry about any powerful monsters suddenly intruding. Die. Even though monsters roamed around him, he moved as if he were in an empty field, his powerful and sweeping attacks each taking the life of a monster. In this chaotic situation, he also sent most of the monster corpses he killed to his storage bead, waiting to feed them to Liuliu upon his return. The surrounding demon suppression army soldiers couldn't help but look on in astonishment at Lin Lei's ferocity. They were veterans who had fought for years, yet they had been outmatched by a child participating in the martial arts examination. It was truly shameful. Brothers, show us your true skills. We can't let this kid look down on us. A second-tier martial artist roared, unleashing a punch that killed the demonic beast before him. He then single-handedly held off 3 or 4 more, instantly becoming the focus of the battlefield. The remaining soldiers of the demon suppression army were filled with righteous indignation, each employing the martial arts techniques they had learned in the army to meet the enemy. Even a student was fighting desperately. What reason did the demon suppression army have not to give it their all? While everyone was engaged in fierce combat, Lin Lei had already collected the corpses of more than 10 demonic beasts and was now slowly retreating. These corpses were enough for him to use for a while. He would leave the rest to the demon suppression army. Excuse me. Just as Lin Lei was backing away, he suddenly bumped into someone. Although he didn't know who the other person was, Lin Lei instinctively apologized. It's all right. The person's voice was cold, like an ancient iceberg exuding chill. Hearing this, Lin Lei turned around. He saw a young man in combat gear standing behind him, his light brown eyes filled with a chilling killing intent. Behind him were 2 equally arrogant female martial artists. Most importantly, these 3 didn't wear the Demon Suppression Army's insignia. Instead, they wore the Martial Arts Association's badge. It's the Demon Hunter Squad. Lin Lei instantly recognized the 3, and a wave of emotions washed over him. Demon Hunter Squads, these squads are directly under the Martial Arts Association. It is subject to the jurisdiction of only the local association president. Most importantly, because maintaining the balance within the abyss is crucial, the Demon Suppression Army requires orders to attack, but the Demon Hunter Squad does not. As long as they perceive a threat, they'll slaughter an entire area without a second thought. Seeing these 3, Lin Lei knew the monster tide was about to be suppressed. After all, every member of the Demon Hunter Squad is an elite among elites. Even at the same level, the top experts in the army might not be able to guarantee a victory against them. Seeing this, Lin Lei slowly retreated. His strength was too weak. Perhaps only after completing the task entrusted to him by Chen Pajun could he enter the Martial Arts Association. Thinking this, Lin Lei's gaze fell upon the young man standing before him. Although he didn't recognize him, Lin Lei could sense the man's formidable strength. If the opponent was like a mountain when he didn't reveal his aura, now he was poised to strike, like a volcano about to erupt, ready to deliver a fatal blow to the group of magical beasts. You're quite good, interested in joining my team. My name is Chen Lin. You can contact me if you join the Martial Arts Association. Just then, the opponent suddenly turned to look at Lin Lei. Ah, me. Faced with this question, Lin Lei was quite taken aback. He had never met this Chen Lin before, so why was the opponent asking him to join his team the moment they met? Could it be a trap? Or was the opponent trying to extract something from him? For a moment, Lin Lei frowned deeply. Unbeknownst to him, Chen Lin had already led his men into the horde of monsters, reaping lives like mowing grass. Fortunately, his doubts didn't last long. The system immediately issued a task. Task issued, teamwork. You have encountered Chen Lin, the youngest 9th-tier martial artist in the Great Xia Kingdom, who has invited you to join his team. Although your strength is currently weak, his invitation is sincere. Join his team. Task reward mind-enhancing pill enhances the 5 senses, granting the user greater insight. Seeing the system pop up, Lin Lei finally breathed a sigh of relief. But this guy is actually the youngest 9th-tier martial artist, truly terrifying. Although he wasn't worried about Chen Lin attacking him, Lin Lei had found a key word. the youngest ninth-tier martial artist. The other person looks only 27 or 28 years old now, but in just 20 years he's already a ninth-tier martial artist. He seems to be someone with great fortune. It's just joining his team, right? As long as the martial arts exam is over, joining the Martial Arts Association will be a natural progression. Lin Lei licked his lips, filled with anticipation for the Martial Arts Association that could nurture Chen Lin. If he joined, could he also try to become the youngest ninth-tier martial artist? Upon returning to the martial arts camp, Lin Lei saw Chen Pajin solemnly counting the number of people, reporting, "General, everyone from No. 1 middle school is present. Everyone from number 2 middle school is present. Everyone from number 3 middle school is present." As each person's arrival was confirmed, Chen Pajin's expression gradually relaxed. Although he didn't know why the monster tide had suddenly erupted, at least he had reacted in time, preventing any casualties. Otherwise, even in such an unexpected situation, Chen Pajin would have been used as a scapegoat by those above who opposed the reforms. Number 13 middle school is 1 person short. The last instructor looked tense. Everyone else had arrived on time and he was the only one missing, a disgrace. Who? Hearing that someone was absent, Chen Pajin frowned, his mood turning heavy. His voice even trembled slightly, for he was terrified that the missing person might be the little guy he had been watching closely, Lin Lei. The instructor gritted his teeth and finally uttered the name. Thump, thump. Chen Pajin took a few steps back, his face pale. Anyone else would do, but Lin Lei couldn't be missing. Not only did he value this little guy highly, but his talent was among the best in the world. If he died in the monster tide, Chen Pajin would be a sinner for all time. Even in death, he would have no face to face the fallen soldiers. Quick, quick, send people to search. Send out the rest of the men. Find them alive or dead. Chen Pajin was now panicked, completely lacking his usual composure. Seeing his state, the students below became even more curious. They knew about Lin Lei selling the monster corpses, initially thinking it was just a small act of power abuse, but seeing Chen Pajin's reaction, they were probably wrong. The monster corpses he sold were very likely killed by Lin Lei alone. In an instant, everyone's eyes turned to number 1 middle school. They all knew that Lin Lei had been expelled from No. 1 middle school, yet now he possessed such terrifying strength. That just proves the leaders of number 1 middle school are a bunch of pigs. Wait. Seeing things escalating, Lin Lei stopped hiding and quickly jumped out to stop it. As he finished speaking, Chen Pajin looked over, and his originally pale face instantly flushed, looking sickly red. "Good lad, you came back without saying a word. Get back to the team quickly, the rankings are about to be announced." Chen Pajin looked Lin Lei up and down, making sure he wasn't hurt before forcing himself to remain calm. Seeing this, Lin Lei smiled and nodded, then returned to the team. All the way, everyone's attention was focused on him, and some girls even offered their phones to add his contact information. But Lin Lei knew these people were just opportunists. If they truly admired him, why weren't they so proactive before? Sure enough, as long as you have the money and the strength, some creatures will always come knocking. Back in the group, Lin Lei, who was originally at the back, was forced to move to the front. He could only shake his head and sigh. Fortunately, this situation didn't last long. With the points leaderboard appearing, everyone's attention was quickly drawn to it. First up is the completion leaderboard. Due to unforeseen circumstances, it's now changed to 3 points to complete the level. Second is the human leaderboard, with points ranging from 5 to 10. Third is the earth leaderboard, with points ranging from 10 to 20. As for the last one, it's the heaven leaderboard. All points are above 20. Seeing everyone's attention return to him, Chen Pajin decided to stop teasing and directly announce the results. As his words fell, the first list was displayed, and everyone began searching for their names according to school and class. "Ha, I passed. Thank goodness for the monster tide, otherwise I wouldn't have been able to get the remaining points. I passed. Ha, I knew I could pass." Those students who had initially given up hope jumped up excitedly upon seeing their names on the list. They were originally out of luck for the quasi-martial artist certificate, but the sudden outbreak of the monster tide gave them the opportunity to pass. Moreover, this list encompasses almost 90% of all students. Those who didn't pass the challenge are simply not suited for martial arts and will likely fade into obscurity in the future. Soon, the second and third lists were also released. However, these 2 lists are clearly more prestigious. Only a little over 300 students made it onto the human ranking, representing only 1% of all students in Heijiang City. As for the Earth ranking, there are fewer than 100 people. Unlike the challenge ranking, the students on these two lists are exceptionally confident in their abilities, so there's no excessive excitement. As for the final heaven ranking, Lin Lei's gaze slowly swept over it. There were only 13 people listed, with the lowest score being 25 points. In other words, those who can get 20 points are generally quite high. It's rare to see someone just barely making the cut. But why does this guy look so familiar? Looking at the chubby, dark-skinned man with 50 points above, Lin Lei finally remembered. Wasn't this the guy who bought 10 of his magical beast corpses? This chubby guy isn't even a quasi-martial artist, yet he managed to get himself into the heavenly rankings just by spending money. Even if he doesn't cultivate martial arts in the future, this will still be an experience he can brag about. Thinking of this, Lin Lei smiled and continued looking up. Third place was a student from number 2 middle school with a whopping 80 points, meaning he killed 16 first-tier magical beasts, almost 1 per hour. Second place was a student from number 1 middle school. He happened to recognize this person's name, Gao Kikyang. His family is in the maritime trade, yet he still managed to get 120 points, demonstrating his strength. As for the first place, unsurprisingly, it's Lin Lei. Holy crap, what's going on with Lin Lei? He only killed 1 magical beast and got 700 points. Damn, this is cheating. This is cheating. Wait, do you guys want to see what kind of magical beast he killed? A second-tier buck-toothed rat leader. Is this even human? A first-tier martial artist killing a second-tier magical beast. Is this guy even human? Well, instantly, when everyone saw Lin Lei's kill record, the previously quiet scene erupted into chaos. They couldn't believe Lin Lei had killed over 70 first-tier magical beasts, but they found it even harder to accept that he had killed a second-tier magical beast. The former can be overwhelmed by sheer numbers, but the latter, even a single soldier from the demon suppression army would likely struggle to kill him. Sure enough, being too outstanding still attracts suspicion. Lin Lei couldn't help but rub his forehead. At that moment, the system's voice echoed in his mind. Power pill. Lin Lei suddenly produced a pill, emitting a faint fragrance. This was the power pill, a system reward, which would increase his strength to 1.5 times its current level. My current strength is already terrifying. If I take the power pill, even a second-tier martial artist probably wouldn't be a match for me. Lin Lei carefully put away the power pill, planning to take it when he got home. He needed to wait for Chen Pajun to distribute the reward first. Thinking of their initial deal, he looked intently at Chen Pajun, only to find his eyes meeting Chen Pajun's. However, it wasn't time for them to talk yet. Except for a few students who hadn't passed the martial artist grand exam, most students could leave directly, only needing to wait for their quasi-martial artist certificates to be issued. But the students on the heavenly ranking needed to stay, because students who achieve such results are destined for greatness, even if he doesn't want those in higher positions to know. As the person in charge, Chen Pajun still needs to meet with them. Everyone, please follow me. Looking at the 13 people standing before him, Chen Pajun beckoned them into a room. Lin Lei followed and was then shown a seat. Chen Pajun stood solemnly at the table, while the 13 people on the heavenly ranking sat there blankly, like schoolchildren being interrogated. Actually, what I want to tell you is quite simple. The Demon Suppression Army is currently training reliable generals, and the Martial Arts Association is forming a team to explore the abyss. Those of you on the heavenly ranking can choose to join the Demon Suppression Army or the Martial Arts Association. Of course, if you choose to give up, you can also get a large reward. I quit, I want the reward. Before Chen Pajun finished speaking, someone immediately chose to quit. Everyone looked and saw it was the fat, dark-skinned guy who bought Lin Lei's 10 demonic beast corpses. This guy wasn't very strong to begin with, not even a quasi-martial artist. He only got into the heavenly ranking by luck. Now that he had a chance to leave, he wouldn't let it go. Fine. Chen Pajun could only sigh. He had been hesitant about how to deal with this guy, since neither the Demon Suppression Army nor the Martial Arts Association could do much with students who lacked talent. Now that the other party was leaving voluntarily, that was naturally the best outcome. With that, the fat, dark-skinned guy didn't hesitate and went straight out to collect his reward. As for the remaining 12 people, each one possesses genuine talent and skill, with the lowest level being a first-tier martial artist. You have 3 days to make your choices, but you must pass the tests of the Demon Suppression Army and the Martial Arts Association. If you pass, Heijiang City will allocate substantial resources to nurture you. Think carefully about your future paths. With that, Chen Pajun prepared to leave, but before departing, he waved to Lin Lei. Come. Lin Lei followed, and the two entered a secret room. However, besides Chen Pajun, there was also someone they had only met once. The Martial Arts Association's elite team, the future youngest ninth-tier martial artist, Chen Lin. Haha, we meet again. My uncle said he'd introduce me to a top genius, and it turns out it's you. Looks like my judgment wasn't bad after all. Chen Lin sat with his legs crossed in his chair, looking incredibly relaxed, showing no signs of the fierce battle he'd just experienced. Lin Lei was also somewhat bewildered upon seeing Chen Lin. Such a massive beast tide, and he dealt with it so quickly. Just how strong is Chen Lin, a third-tier martial artist? Probably more than that, perhaps even a fourth or fifth-tier martial artist, and he even called Chen Pajun uncle. He hadn't expected the two of them to have such a relationship. But in Lin Lei's view, although Chen Pajun would provide resources to Chen Lin, ultimately it would be due to Chen Lin's superior talent. Otherwise, as a general, Chen Pajun would not waste resources. Get out of the way, you're so unprofessional. Seeing this, Chen Pajun shooed Chen Lin aside, then sat down with his legs crossed. Then he looked at Lin Lei and said calmly, "At first I made you 3 promises, and I was worried you wouldn't be able to fulfill them, but now it seems I was worrying for nothing. Choose the Demon Suppression Army or the Martial Arts Association. Whichever you choose, you will receive top-tier treatment." Having said that, both Chen Pajun and Chen Lin's smiles faded, and they looked at Lin Lei solemnly. Lin Lei was also affected by this atmosphere. His expression turned serious. He knew this decision could very well change his life, so he was very cautious. Fortunately, the system was reliable and popped up shortly after. Mission issued, midlife success. A man is in his prime at 40. I never expected you to be chosen by 2 giants, the Demon Suppression Army and the Martial Arts Association. One is a general who conquers the abyss, and the other is the youngest 9th-tier martial artist. You must be very conflicted. Choosing the Demon Suppression Army will grant you the status, War God. Your large-scale combat talent will be maxed out. Choosing the Martial Arts Association will grant you the pill, Tiger-Slaying Pill. The ultimate tiger-slaying pill is of one mind with you and will never betray you. Each time you consume it, its growth progress will increase, and this growth progress will also be reflected in you. Lin Lei's eyes widened the moment he saw the system reward. Clearly, one side was to abandon their martial prowess and become a strategic talent, while the other side was to pursue extreme martial arts, even allowing Liu Liu to grow faster. I choose the Martial Arts Association. After hesitating for a moment, Lin Lei finally made his choice. Although large-scale battles were tempting, he ultimately didn't like sitting in the rear. Moreover, his experiences over the years had taught him that without strength, one would never be respected. What good is talent? This world won't lack talented people. At that level, one's position will likely still depend on blood ties. But top martial artists are different. Almost every top martial artist can form their own family. There's absolutely no need to worry about being manipulated by anyone. So after weighing the options, Lin Lei finally decided to join the Martial Arts Association. Only by possessing real strength could he reassure others. Good. Just after Lin Lei made his choice, Chen Pajun let out a somewhat dejected sigh, while Chen Lin clapped his hands with a smile. Top geniuses are scarce everywhere. Even though they have family ties, they still have to fight for them. Now that Lin Lei has made his choice, it's a good thing for them all. Elder Chen, I'm sorry. Lin Lei bowed and apologized to Chen Pajun. After all, although this General Chen had made a deal with him, he had ultimately given him a lot of convenience. However, Chen Pajun simply waved his hand and said in a relaxed tone, "Now that you're going to the Martial Arts Association, grow well. You won't be shortchanged on any resources they're supposed to provide. What I said before, old man, stands. This is 5 million in cash. It's not a huge amount, but it's part of the deal. The Demon Suppression Army's materials are only for internal use. This money can buy quite a few good things at the Martial Arts Association." Thank you. Lin Lei clasped his hands in thanks. He had great respect for General Chen. Chen Lin watched Lin Lei accept the card, then smiled and approached. "Go to the Martial Arts Association the day after tomorrow. I'll introduce you to the other 2 team members then." Okay. After the 3 discussed their plans, they parted ways. Lin Lei, clutching the card, was incredibly excited. "With this money, I can buy supplements for my parents to improve their health." Leaving the demon suppression army's encampment, Lin Lei returned directly to Hejiang City. As soon as he entered the Martial Arts Association, he heard a voice in his mind. Mission completed. Congratulations on obtaining the tiger-slaying pill. Hearing this voice, a smile appeared on Lin Lei's face. With the tiger-slaying pill, as long as Liu Liu still needs to devour the corpses of demonic beasts to grow, his own strength will continue to increase. Thinking of this, he carefully put away the pill and then went inside the Hejiang City Martial Arts Association for consultation. Now that he had a huge sum of 7 million, he naturally didn't need to think about how to make money anymore, but rather how to spend it. Spending this money wisely would be much more effective than wasting it haphazardly. My parents need to recuperate. I'll use this million to hire someone at the Martial Arts Association to treat them. Ideally, I could break through to become a first-tier martial artist, then I wouldn't have to worry about my lifespan. Looking at the different treatment options, Lin Lei directly chose the most expensive one. After all, money can be earned back, but his parents' health couldn't be delayed. As for the remaining money, although he lacked martial arts skills, learning those trashy techniques would only be a waste of energy. And the dragon elephant body refining technique was still sufficient for him, so other techniques weren't on his agenda. Looks like I need to buy something to enhance my cultivation. Lin Lei then spent money to buy a considerable amount of second-tier magical beast blood, preparing to cultivate at home. With the remaining money, he planned to buy a house. Otherwise, living in the slums, aside from the issue of his status, the noise he made while cultivating would probably ruin those old, dilapidated rooms. After spending money, Lin Lei returned home. His parents already knew he was home, but they didn't know what results he had achieved. Lin Lei, it doesn't matter how well you did, Dad supports your decision. That's right, we've always done it this way, eat more. Seeing Lin Lei looking slightly tired, his parents tactfully didn't ask about his grades, just told him to keep eating. Lin Lei was both amused and exasperated and ultimately didn't reveal his results. What's the point of telling them now? He'd surprise them when the results were released. After eating and drinking his fill, he returned to his room. With a rustling sound in his pocket, Liu Liu, who had just woken up, jumped out, shaking its head. After devouring the blood demon flood dragon, the little creature had been asleep. Judging from its increased size, it must have completely digested it. Here, have this. Lin Lei, seeing this, took out the tiger-slaying pill and handed it over. Liu Liu was instantly attracted to the pill, as if it had a fatal attraction to it. With just one bite, Liu Liu swallowed the tiger-slaying pill. Its fur began to grow longer, and its originally cute and adorable appearance gradually became more majestic. However, the tiger-slaying pill didn't directly help it grow, so Liu Liu only increased in size slightly before falling into a deep sleep enveloped by a strange power. Lin Lei, however, could feel that his connection with Liu Liu seemed to have become even closer. I wonder when it will wake up. I'll take a pill too. Lin Lei popped the power pill into his mouth and instantly felt his body being assaulted by a brute force, which he then began to adapt to. Although this transformation was painful, Lin Lei's innate demonic body allowed him to endure it. When he opened his eyes, it was already past midnight. He felt his blood and qi surging, as if he had inexhaustible strength within him. Liu Liu, meanwhile, stared at Lin Lei with wide, slightly bewildered eyes. Oh, are you hungry? Here, eat. Looking at Liu Liu, Lin Lei's mind automatically conjured up the other's thoughts, and he took a demonic beast corpse from his storage bead. The monster's corpse landed, and although Liu Liu didn't understand why Lin Lei could understand its meaning, driven by hunger, it pounced on it and began devouring it piece by piece. The effect is so obvious. Just as Lin Lei had devoured half of the buck-toothed rat's corpse, he felt a condensed blood energy suddenly appear and then disappear into his own flesh. Although this blood energy wouldn't make him stronger, the advantage was that as long as Liu Liu devoured it, he could become stronger. He was essentially cultivating while lying down. Wait, what's going on? However, before Lin Lei could rejoice, he saw Liu Liu swallow the last piece of meat in one gulp, and then a fiery aura erupted from its body. At this moment, this young, endless tiger seemed to exude a murderous aura. It was the embodiment of death. Roar. Liu Lei actually let out a roar, and then its body began to expand rapidly, growing from the size of a basketball to the size of an adult domestic dog. Although the rapid growth tore its skin, exposing even its muscles and bones to the air, the powerful vitality of a magical beast continuously repaired its wounds. Its fur covered the wounds, and its purplish-black fur exuded a faint majesty and mystery under the starlight. What's going on? This roar alone startled everyone in the slums, and Lin Jian, the father, rushed in a panic, his face filled with terror. A magical beast. Instantly, the middle-aged man, not even a quasi-martial artist, felt a surge of courage upon seeing Lin Lei and the magical beast sharing a room. Son, run! He rushed forward, wanting to fight Liu Liu to the death, but Liu Liu clearly didn't take him seriously. As a being possessing the bloodline of a cosmic magical beast, its intelligence was now comparable to that of a 7 or 8-year-old child. Therefore, after assessing the relationship between Lin Lei and Lin Jian, it simply stood there, its gaze fixed on the person it trusted most, Lin Lei. Dad, don't panic. This is the magical beast I tamed. Lin Lei quickly stopped them. He stopped Lin Jian and Chen Fang, who was about to rush in to fight, and led them out of the room. Stay here. I have some things to take care of. After giving Liu Liu a few instructions, he pulled his parents aside and began to explain. But to them, this sounded like a complete fantasy. Taming magical beasts was utterly impossible. However, Lin Lei's behavior just now forced them to believe that their son had truly become unrecognizable. Sai, since that's the case, let's move. I've saved some money. We should be able to make a down payment on a small detached house in the suburbs. It's a bit dangerous, but at least it won't affect anyone else. Father Lin Jian pondered for a moment and finally decided to leave. However, Lin Lei shook his head upon seeing this. Now it was finally time to lay his cards on the table. He took out the card and placed it directly on the table. Dad, take this. There are over 5 million here, enough for us to buy a detached villa in downtown Heijiang. If it's not enough, just tell me. Your son is the #1 in this year's martial arts examination. Your son is #1 in today's martial arts exam. Lin Lei's face was full of confidence, showing no sign of faking it. Lin Jian, upon hearing this, was momentarily stunned, then scratched his head and grinned foolishly. #1, hee hee, my son is #1. His mother, Chen Fang, rolled her eyes at this scene. Although she was also excited in her heart, Lin Lei had always been excellent. Besides, even if he wasn't #1, would they think Lin Lei was incompetent? Son, get some rest. I'll teach your father a lesson later. With that, Chen Fang grabbed Lin Jian's ear and left, leaving Lin Lei alone. However, hurried footsteps could be heard outside. Clearly, Liu Liu's roar had attracted the surrounding martial artists. Looks like I have to deal with this. Lin Lei slowly shook his head, then opened the door and led Liu Liu out. The matter of taming magical beasts couldn't be hidden. He could only report it to the Martial Arts Association first. However, as soon as he opened the door, Lin Lei saw several martial artists looking at him warily. You, the magical beast is mine. Lin Lei got straight to the point, and Liu Liu, who came out behind him, instantly attracted the attention of many martial artists. I'm willing to go to the association for investigation. Seeing the martial artists' anger, Lin Lei interrupted them directly. In an instant, the faces of those men turned a deep, purplish red. They were the ones interrogating him, so why were they in such a passive position? However, since Lin Lei had spoken, they didn't say much. They glanced at him warily, then led him to the special vehicle bound for the Martial Arts Association. In the car, Lin Lei sat in the front, while Liu Liu was placed in a specially made cage at the back. The martial artists were on high alert. Although Lin Lei was surrounded, they couldn't help but feel a sense of fear. They sensed a certain aura emanating from Lin Lei, as if he weren't a young student, but a war god who had slain countless enemies on the battlefield. Lin Lei, seeing their reaction, couldn't help but find it somewhat amusing. Although these martial artists belonged to the Martial Arts Association, they were ultimately only first-tier martial artists. If he wanted to break free from their control, even if their numbers doubled, they couldn't stop him. Soon, amidst the rapid breathing of the crowd, the car slowly came to a stop. Lin Lei got out of the car, with Liu Liu following behind. The martial artists kept a distance of 2 or 3 meters, their eyes not daring to leave Lin Lei, fearing he might suddenly become violent. What's going on? However, at that moment, a voice full of doubt broke the silence. Hearing this, Lin Lei looked up and saw Chen Lin standing in the darkness, his face seemingly showing surprise. Lin Lei, what are you doing? He stepped out of the darkness and then noticed Liu Liu behind Lin Lei. In an instant, he understood what was going on. It was just taming magical beasts, wasn't it? Chen Lin had done it before, but as the captain of the Martial Arts Association's elite team, and with no one else living nearby, no one had ever bothered with it. But he knew a little about Lin Lei's situation. It seemed someone had reported him for taming magical beasts. Captain Chen, he. All right, I'll handle this. You can all go back. The martial artists were about to complain, but Chen Lin stopped them again. However, even so, they could only swallow their anger. Seeing Chen Lin take over, they simply turned and left. After everyone left, Chen Lin went to Lin Lei's side, but his gaze was fixed on Liu Liu. What a rare magical beast. You've hit the jackpots. Come on, let's go get the paperwork for raising a magical beast. Thank you. Lin Lei bowed in thanks, and the two then entered the Martial Arts Association. With Chen Lin's help, even in the middle of the night, the paperwork was completed within an hour. Looking at the pitch-black night, Lin Lei no longer had any intention of going back to sleep. He was about to go to the Martial Arts Association's training room to practice when he met Chen Lin's gaze, interested in a match. Huh. Hearing his words, Lin Lei was somewhat stunned, fighting Chen Lin. Wouldn't he be completely dominated? He's hey. I will suppress my strength to that of a first-tier martial artist. Let's spar a bit so I, as the captain, can know your strength. With that, Chen Lin opened a training room. Lin Lei, seeing this, also wanted to know his current strength, so he followed. As soon as he stepped into the training room, the system's voice came from his mind. Mission issued, underdog assault. Are you kidding me? You, a first-tier martial artist, actually accepted a battle invitation from a ninth-tier martial artist. You're incredibly audacious. Just withstand one move from them and you'll complete the mission. Mission Reward 1, Breakthrough. Directly break through a minor realm, can break through the barrier between two major realms. Mission Reward 2, Fire Dragon Body Refining Pill, second tier asterisk 1. Upon seeing the system reward, Lin Lei was overjoyed. A ninth-tier martial artist? Where would you find a ninth-tier martial artist? Chen Lin should only be 4th or 5th tier right now. Besides, the other party said he wanted to suppress his strength to match his own, so blocking a single attack would be a piece of cake, wouldn't it? Brother Chen, let's begin. Lin Lei stood opposite Chen Lin, his blood and qi surging. Looking at the spirited Lin Lei, Chen Lin wasn't just excited about the fight. When he was a first-tier martial artist, he could already fight a second-tier martial artist on equal terms, but Lin Lei's appearance made him feel something was off. This guy's strength at the same level might not be weaker than his own. Furthermore, to understand Lin Lei's strength, Chen Lin decided to fight him. Take this. Seeing Lin Lei was ready, Chen Lin didn't hesitate, offering a warning before attacking. He lightly touched the ground with his toes, launching himself forward like a spring, his hands forming tiger claws, aiming to take Lin Lei down completely. His movements were lightning fast, even Lin Lei couldn't keep up. After all, Lin Lei was better at head-on confrontation. This kind of surprise attack wasn't his forte. The dog Liu Liu was also attracted by the commotion. If Chen Lin hadn't shown no killing intent, it would have even considered joining Lin Lei in the fight. Bang, a muffled sound rang out. Although Lin Lei couldn't keep up with Chen Lin's movements, fortunately, his physical body was exceptionally resilient. Moreover, Chen Lin had indeed only used the strength of a first-level martial artist. So even though his opponent's attack was tricky, Lin Lei only felt like he'd been punched hard. Besides feeling a little uncomfortable, he couldn't even move his feet an inch. Chen Lin frowned upon seeing this. How could he in his first-tier martial art estate not even break through Lin Lei's defense? Was that reasonable? Mission complete. Congratulations to the host for breaking through a minor realm. Congratulations to the host for obtaining Fire Dragon Body Refining Pill, second tier asterisk 1. The system's voice rang out. Lin Lei felt his body become incredibly hot, his internal energy boiling like a volcano, rushing directly to his brain. His tilde this is, he actually broke through to the second tier. Seeing Lin Lei's boiling energy, Chen Lin couldn't help but gasp. No wonder his uncle valued Lin Lei so highly. He was even able to break through in battle. His new teammate was truly extraordinary. Not bad, you can break through in battle. Lin Lei, you truly delight me. Seeing Lin Lei fully display his prowess after his breakthrough, Chen Lin was also excited. He hadn't encountered such an exciting opponent in a long time. This time, he had to fight to his heart's content. However, Lin Lei felt as if the shackles binding him had finally been broken, as if he had been reborn. His flesh and blood seemed to have been reforged by true energy. Endless power surged from his bones and blood, not only strengthening his body, but also making his mind more active. Brother Chen, let's begin. Now I'm a second-tier martial artist, don't hold back. He smiled and waved to Chen Lin. A confident glint shone in his eyes. Seeing Lin Lei's reaction, Chen Lin no longer held back, controlling his power within the range of a second-tier martial artist. Boom, Chen Lin unleashed a punch, creating a gust of wind that struck directly at Lin Lei's face. but Lin Lei remained calm, concentrating his internal energy at a single point. Ninefold Thunder Force. It was another punch, but Lin Lei struck first despite being slower. Their attacks collided, instantly forcing both of them to retreat. Chen Lin stared at his split tiger's mouth, his eyes filled with shock. He had just used the power of a peak second-tier martial artist, yet Lin Lei had still forced him back. Was this guy really a newcomer to the second tier? Lin Lei was somewhat surprised. This was the first time he had been defeated in a direct confrontation. Although his fingers were a bloody mess, his regenerative abilities were exceptionally strong, and the wounds began to heal automatically within a few breaths. Again! Although Chen Lin didn't understand why Lin Lei was so strong, he was also eager to know the limits of this new team member. As soon as he finished speaking, he delivered an elbow strike to Lin Lei's chest. However, Lin Lei remained unfazed, simply throwing a punch. Ninefold Thunder Force, second form, crack, the two men's fists and feet collided and a sound of bones cracking rang out, but this sound didn't come from Lin Lei. Instead, Chen Lin's leg bone was cracked, hissed Tilda. Chen Lin gasped in pain. He hadn't felt this kind of pain since becoming a fourth-tier martial artist. As for why his bone cracked, it was because it was difficult for a martial artist to temper their bones to such a depth. Perhaps a seventh-tier martial artist could temper their bones to be as hard as stone, but Chen Lin couldn't do that now. Stop, stop. He stood on the ground, his right leg barely touching the ground. You're really something, kid. My bone is cracked and you're completely unharmed. Tusk, looks like I, the old guard, am going to be swept away on the beach. With that, Chen Lin didn't wait for Lin Lei's reply and immediately left without looking back. He was genuinely afraid that if he delayed any longer, his leg injury might leave lasting problems. Watching Chen Lin leave, Lin Lei couldn't help but twitch his lips. He had been planning to try out the third form of the Ninefold Thunder Force, but now that Chen Lin was gone, it wasn't quite as satisfying. Never mind, I'll wait for another chance to spar. I've already come today, so I guess I've reported for duty, right? Lin Lei rubbed the back of his head, the weariness after the battle washing over him. I'll go back to sleep first, and we'll talk when I'm awake. He rubbed his shin and then walked home under the moonlight. However, at that moment, in a corner he hadn't noticed, several figures stealthily followed behind. Dad's Lin Lei came out from inside. Huang Chusheng's trembling hand gripped a miniature walkie-talkie, his face filled with fear. Fine, let's settle this today. Don't worry, Dad has hired 3 second-tier martial artists today. They can definitely make Lin Lei disappear from this world without a trace. I don't believe they'll hold a grudge against me for a dead man. Huang Weijian's sinister voice rang out. Ever since learning yesterday afternoon that Lin Lei possessed the strength to single-handedly kill a second-tier magical beast, he had been enveloped by a deep sense of crisis. He was terrified that Lin Lei would retaliate against him. After all, what he had done was practically cutting off a student's escape route. And most importantly, Lin Lei had become involved with the Demon Suppression Army and the Martial Arts Association, so the person behind him certainly wouldn't stand up for him. Under such a crisis, for his own sake and for his son Huang Chusheng's future, Huang Weijian had no choice but to fight to the death. So, risking capture by the Martial Arts Association, he entered the black market to hire assassins, preparing to find an opportunity to completely eliminate Lin Lei. To ensure absolute success, he even planned to personally take action, not necessarily to reduce Lin Lei to ashes, but at least to watch him breathe his last. But he still has a demonic beast by his side if... No time for hesitation, settle this today. Although Huang Chusheng was still somewhat worried, Huang Weijian didn't care. He knew there was no possibility of reconciliation between him and Lin Lei. Today was the best opportunity to take him down. As for the demonic beast, that was simple. If the demonic beast killed Lin Lei, it would have nothing to do with Huang Weijian. As long as Lin Lei dies, he'll still be the dean of studies at number 1 middle school after a while, and his son will still be a genius capable of making it onto the Earth ranking. Before Huang Chusheng could answer, Huang Weijian hung up the phone. On his end, he could already see Lin Lei's figure slowly approaching. Roar Tilda. However, at this moment, Liu Liu seemed to smell something in the air and unusually rubbed against Lin Lei's thigh. Seeing this, Lin Lei revealed a contemptuous smile. Pretending not to know anything, these idiots don't really think they can kill me, do they? In fact, he had sensed someone following him after leaving the Martial Arts Association, but he hadn't expected the other party to hold back for so long. However, they had to make their move on this last stretch, otherwise, after a few more kilometers. That's where the city government is located, so the other party has no chance to make a move. As for who made the move, it's easy to guess. He hasn't provoked anyone in all these years, so the only person who wants to kill him is the one who fears his revenge, the Dean of Academic Affairs at number 1 Middle School, Huang Weijin. Attack! Just as Lin Lei was passing by a lake, Huang Weijin couldn't wait any longer. He let out a low shout, gathering his qi and blood in his right hand, and directly blasted it towards Lin Lei's temple. As soon as he finished speaking, the remaining second-tier martial artists instantly appeared, each unleashing a killing move, seemingly intent on taking Lin Lei's life instantly. Roar. Seeing this, Liu Liu was immediately enraged. It charged directly at Huang Weijin. He wanted to tear this guy who seemed to have jumped out first to shreds. Seeing this, Lin Lei ignored Huang Weijin and looked directly at the three who had launched the sneak attack. Die! He never showed any mercy to assassins who treated human life like dirt. Ninefold thunder force. With just one punch, the first assassin who made contact with him had his chest shattered. Lin Lei's physical body was now comparable to that of Chen Lin, a fourth-tier expert. How could this group of people possibly withstand him? Not good. Huang Weijin was horrified at the sight and immediately tried to escape, but was held back tightly by Liu Liu. As the Tiger of the End, although it only possessed the strength of a first-tier being, dealing with a pampered fellow like Huang Weijin was still more than enough. However, while Huang Weijin could survive for a while, the two assassins weren't so lucky. Lin Lei grabbed their heads with both hands and then slammed them down. Crack, the two heads exploded like watermelons, brains splattering all over the ground. Huang Weijin, it's your turn. Looking at this headmaster who was targeting him, Lin Lei's expression was utterly cold. At this moment, Huang Weijin had lost all sense of reason due to fear. He had no ability to resist. You can't kill me, I'm your teacher. If you kill me, the people behind me will definitely not let this go. Boom! Lin Lei didn't even bother listening to him, simply stomping on his chest to kill him. This kind of scum who harms students every second he lives is a waste of air. Haha, and you too, Huang Chusheng. Lin Lei turned his head, looking at the deep corridor he had just walked through, and his figure instantly disappeared into the darkness. Help, help! Just as Lin Lei returned to confront Huang Chusheng, the person directly involved, rushed into the Martial Arts Association. Logically, he shouldn't know that Lin Lei had killed all the attackers. However, Huang Weijin hadn't turned off his communicator before his death, so Huang Chusheng immediately knew the operation had failed after hearing no response. Although hiring assassins violated martial arts regulations, Lin Lei's rash killing would shake the Martial Arts Association. After all, martial arts are a means to break the law, and strict laws were established worldwide to regulate martial arts behavior. We can't break them for Lin Lei alone, otherwise, who knows what these hot-blooded martial artists might do. What happened? Hearing someone cry for help, the Martial Arts Association members reacted quickly. More than 10 first-level martial artists on guard immediately surrounded Huang Chusheng, preventing anyone from suddenly attacking and killing this victim. Huang Chusheng quickly recounted the events in detail. However, in his version, he was the victim, while Lin Lei was accused of bullying the innocent with his strength, even killing Huang Weijin and others to silence them. Outrageous. How can a student be so arrogant? Is this what people from number 13 middle school are like, daring to kill someone in the street? I am ashamed to be associated with this person. I urge everyone to seek justice for this student. This is no ordinary arrogant student. We must strike hard. At this moment, the crowd was filled with rage. Everyone wanted nothing more than to capture Lin Lei. A genius martial artist who dared to kill in the street, who knew what he would do in the future. Perhaps rebelling against another country would be considered a good outcome. Just then, a figure slowly emerged from within the association, and Huang Chusheng's eyes immediately blazed with a will to survive upon seeing him. Because this person was none other than Tang San, the vice president of the Hejiang City Martial Arts Association, the powerful backer of his Huang family. HMPH, Hejiang City actually has such a madman. This is a provocation against our Hejiang City Martial Arts Association. It must be punished immediately. Gather 20 first-tier martial artists and 10 second-tier martial artists. I need to see Lin Lei within half an hour. Yes. With Tang San's command, everyone immediately sprang into action. Leaving aside the fact that they had to obey the vice president's orders, Huang Chusheng's words alone were enough to instill hatred in them towards Lin Lei. Soon, one after another, martial artists filed out, heading in the direction Huang Chusheng had pointed. However, Lin Lei, unaware of the situation, frowned. He had rushed back quickly, but he hadn't even seen a trace of Huang Chusheng. What? Suddenly, he looked up ahead. He saw more than 20 martial artists heading towards him, and Huang Chusheng, whom he was looking for, was right among them. That's him. This guy is Lin Lei. What? Murder in the street, Lin Lei. What is your crime? Lay down your weapons and surrender. The association will definitely give you a lenient sentence. He has magical beasts with him. He's obviously not a good person. Well, these martial artists all looked menacing, as if they wanted to devour him alive. But Lin Lei knew very well that he didn't know any of them. They're probably instigated by Huang Chusheng. Lin Lei quickly concluded that this matter was definitely related to Huang Chusheng. However, even though they were instigated, Lin Lei wouldn't surrender easily. A bunch of fools who can't even distinguish right from wrong. If he didn't teach them a lesson and let them go, that would be unbecoming of him. I will not offend others unless they offend me. If they do, I will kill them. Surrender. A second-tier martial artist rushed forward, intending to subdue Lin Lei. However, Lin Lei calmly turned his body, his gaze coldly sweeping over the opponent. The next second, the second-tier martial artist was pressed to the ground by Lin Lei's palm, his entire chi and blood circulation disrupted, rendering him temporarily unable to fight. Kill! Seeing this scene, Tang San, who hadn't originally intended to intervene, couldn't hold back any longer. He had to issue the order in the name of the association. Even if Lin Lei wasn't wrong, as long as he dared to attack someone from the association, he would also be wrong. Wait. But just then, a furious shout rang out. Lin Lei looked up and saw Chen Lin rushing over from a distance. Although his injuries clearly hampered his movements, he had at least come. Who ordered you to attack? Chen Lin angrily rebuked the group of martial artists, his gaze fixed on Tang San. Although the other party was the vice president, Chen Lin remained unfazed. He was one of the top fourth-tier martial artists in the entire Heijiang city. A mere vice president couldn't possibly control him. Hearing his words, everyone turned their attention to Tang San. And Tang San, true to his vice president status, showed no sign of panic. Chen Lin, this student named Huang Chusheng, said Lin Lei killed someone. I sent someone to take him away. That should be correct, right? In one sentence, he directly absolved himself of responsibility, ensuring he wouldn't be implicated even in future repercussions. However, Lin Lei narrowed his eyes slightly upon hearing this. To arrest someone based on a single sentence, this Tang San probably had considerable connections with the Huang family. HMPH, has the truth been investigated? Arresting people so arbitrarily, I think the Martial Arts Association is truly becoming more and more corrupt. Before Chen Lin could speak, an aged yet domineering voice rang out. Chen Pajun walked slowly in, hands behind his back, exuding an imposing aura. His purpose in coming to the Martial Arts Association was simple: to record all the results. He hadn't expected to encounter such a situation. Arresting someone based on a single sentence was bad enough, but to even arrest Lin Lei, didn't they know Lin Lei's performance in the martial arts examination? If something happened to him, the higher-ups would probably clean up the entire Heijiang city. As soon as the words fell, everyone looked at Huang Chusheng. They realized that this was all just Huang Chusheng's own account. They didn't seem to have seen any concrete evidence. Tang San's face was stiff. Although he had managed to exonerate himself, Chen Pajun's words could now wipe out all his achievements of the past few years. Heh, Huang Chusheng, oh Huang Chusheng. You think you have connections. Too bad, my background is even stronger than yours. Lin Lei sneered and walked up to Huang Chusheng, looking at his old classmate who was trembling with fear, his tone very calm. But Huang Chusheng felt as if he were being targeted by some kind of demonic beast. My background is stronger than yours. Lin Lei's voice was filled with murderous intent, making Huang Chusheng tremble but dare not utter a word of rebuttal. Although he didn't know Chen Lin, he was very familiar with Chen Pajun, the general of the Demon Suppression Army, a man who wouldn't tolerate the slightest injustice. Now that he had offended these two, unless the person behind them was willing to come to his rescue, he would likely face certain death. Thinking of this, Huang Chusheng glanced at Tang San, only to find that this backer, who had received millions from the Huang family, was now cold-faced and showed no intention of helping him. Seeing this scene, Huang Chusheng was utterly desperate, but Lin Lei wouldn't let him off easily. He stepped forward, coughed twice, and attracted everyone's attention. Since the system had given him a chance to kick someone when they're down, Lin Lei would definitely not let it go. Everyone, I'm Lin Lei, originally a student at number 1 high school. But a few days ago, I was expelled, and the culprit was Huang Weijun, the senior year dean of studies at No. 1 high school. This guy embezzled students' chi and blood pills. Seeing everyone's attention on him, Lin Lei immediately began to recount everything Huang Weijun had done. Withholding pills is a minor matter, but forcing students to leave before the martial arts examination is something that has almost incurred public wrath. Not to mention Tang San, the vice president. Even the president of the Heijiang City Martial Arts Association, if involved in this matter, would probably be directly removed by the higher-ups. However, Tang San has now completely absolved himself of any responsibility, and Huang Weijun and other insiders have been killed, so naturally no one can come forward to accuse him. Fortunately, number 13 middle school was willing to take me in, and the principal spared no effort in cultivating me, which allowed me to successfully participate in the martial arts examination. But Huang Weijun and the others believed that I would retaliate against them after my strength increased, so they killed me halfway. If you still consider me the perpetrator, then I, Lin Lei, have nothing to say. Having said that, Lin Lei waved his sleeve. He had already revealed all the disgusting things Huang Weijun had done, withholding pills, embezzling school funds, and even the rumors from a few years ago that he had secretly molested female students. Lin Lei didn't care about the truth, he revealed it all, although doing so was somewhat immoral. But if someone's about to kill him, why should he care about anything else? The moment the words left his mouth, the crowd, which had calmed down, erupted into another uproar. Holy crap, I think I've heard of Huang Weijun before. Damn it, he cheated my sister out of more than 10 chi and blood pills. I graduated from No. 1 high school, and I always thought the name Huang Chusheng sounded familiar. Turns out he's that old B******D's son. Disgusting. Good riddance, he expelled someone and was still worried about retaliation. People like that deserve to die 1,000 times over. He even molested girls, he's utter scum. We must report him to the association and the city government. Even if Huang Weijun is dead, his son is still alive. Instantly, all eyes turned to Huang Chusheng. At first, everyone was fooled by his slander, but now that the cause and effect had reversed, he was naturally suffering the consequences. And no, don't believe him. Huang Chusheng wanted to argue, but seeing the crowd surrounding him, he panicked and could only look at Tang San behind him. However, Tang San seemed to have made up his mind and waved his hand, saying, "This matter has nothing to do with Lin Lei. Take Huang Chusheng away and lock him in the association's jail for investigation. The association will definitely produce a result within 3 days." Hearing his words, everyone suppressed their anger and then escorted Huang Chusheng away. After they all left, only Lin Lei, Chen Lin, Chen Pajun, and Tang San remained within 100 meters. Vice President did a good job. Chen Lin was the first to make a sarcastic remark. He had naturally noticed something amiss, but without evidence, he couldn't bring Tang San to justice. Tang San ignored him and instead looked at Lin Lei. "It's a good thing you stepped forward, otherwise I would have been completely fooled. I, Tang San, will repay you handsomely for what happened today." With that, he turned and left, completely disregarding Lin Lei and the others. Liu, seeing Tang San's arrogance, couldn't help but bar its teeth, wanting to attack. Never mind. Lin Lei patted its head, immediately calming the little guy down. Chen Pajun meanwhile stroked his chin, his eyes slightly narrowed, lost in thought. After a long silence, he finally spoke. "Don't worry about Tang San. I'll have people protect your parents around the clock. Today, go with Chen Lin to get your martial arts certificate, then go to the Abyss Rift to train. Several universities have contacted me wanting to recruit you. If you have time, come and learn more. Although you've joined the Martial Arts Association, completing your studies is still one of the most important things." "Thank you, Elder Chen." After finishing his business, Chen Pajun didn't linger and went directly to the Martial Arts Association. Although this matter can't be reported, it's still necessary to inform the association president, who doesn't like to get involved. With this incident happening under his command, if we investigate, that president won't escape responsibility. Go to the Abyss, I'll get your documents sorted out for you. Don't overdo it. The last monster tide was suspicious. Be careful. Okay. After giving these instructions, Chen Lin left, leaving Lin Lei and Liu staring at each other, one human and one tiger. Lin Lei knew that although he had broken through to the second tier, he still lacked fame. Otherwise, Tang San wouldn't have dared to humiliate him like this. Looks like I need to stir up some big trouble. Lin Lei stroked his chin, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. Stirring up trouble, that's his specialty. Putting everything else aside, killing monsters is probably the most direct and effective way. At that very moment, the system's voice echoed in his mind. Mission complete. Congratulations on obtaining the top-tier movement technique, Thunder Shadow Step. As the system's voice faded, Lin Lei felt something suddenly appear in his mind, and all of this knowledge was related to Thunder Shadow Step. No wonder it's called Thunder Shadow Step. It's not just about speed, it can even enhance the activity of qi and blood during movement. In other words, the first martial art used after Thunder Shadow Step can almost double the original damage. Even though using Thunder Shadow Step puts some strain on the body, compared to the benefits, this strain is completely negligible. Lin Lei absorbed all the knowledge in his mind, instantly understanding what a top-tier movement technique was. The movement techniques he had seen on television before. Compared to Lei Yingbu, he was worlds apart. With Lei Yingbu, he was sure to reap great rewards this time entering the Abyss Rift. But before that, my strength needs to increase. He murmured to himself, clutching the fire dragon body refining pill, standing in the darkness. The Martial Arts Association was thrown into chaos by Huang Chusheng's incident. Under Chen Pajan's personal supervision, a thorough investigation was launched from top to bottom, and many people who had interacted with Huang Jianjun began to distance themselves. However, all of this was irrelevant to Lin Lei. He simply rented a training room, placed Liu Liu aside to devour the corpses of magical beasts, and then began his plan to become stronger. Last time I took the first-tier fire dragon body refining pill, it almost completely upgraded my physical attributes. I wonder how much progress this second-tier pill will make. Lin Lei looked at the bright red pill in his hand, then swallowed it whole. He was now completely immersed in the blood of magical beasts, his body shimmering with a bewitching crimson. The pill entered his stomach. A fiery sensation suddenly surged from his dantian, as if endless flames were scorching Lin Lei's body. Furthermore, coupled with his cultivation of the dragon elephant body refining technique, Lin Lei's physical body was being simultaneously ravaged and reforged by both internal and external forces. He felt as if countless ants were gnawing at his entire body. The excruciating pain made him wish he could tear his flesh apart. However, this feeling didn't last long. With the powerful recovery of his innate demon god body, the medicinal power of the pills within Lin Lei's body was rapidly absorbed. Soon, the strange feeling gradually dissipated, and Lin Lei felt his body brimming with power and boundless vitality. This was not merely an increase in strength, but a manifestation of the sublimation of his life. This increase is terrifying. Looking at the demon beast blood he had absorbed completely, Lin Lei gasped in shock. Hundreds of thousands were absorbed in one go. No wonder they say martial arts cultivation is incredibly expensive. Now that I see it, it's not just expensive, it's like burning money. However, abundant vitality means my lifespan will be much longer. At this moment, Lin Lei felt as if his body had been reborn. This was the change brought about by the increased vitality. After all, vitality doesn't just represent lifespan. It directly affects a martial artist's future potential. Otherwise, no one would say that you can see a martial artist's limit between 20 and 30 years old. Because if you haven't broken through to the second-tier martial artist by that age, you're basically doomed. Asterisk, I just don't know how strong I am now. Lin Lei put on his clothes and then looked at Liu Liu. The endless tiger sensed something at this moment, and its gaze towards Lin Lei held a hint of awe. If before it revered Lin Lei as its master solely due to the system's influence, now Lin Lei possessed the power to make it bow its head. It wasn't just Lin Lei's strength, but also the level of his life that made the endless tiger realize that this wasn't a human, but a great being with limitless potential just like itself. Come on, let's see how strong my punches are. Lin Lei greeted Liu Liu with a smile. However, this little guy, possessing the bloodline of a cosmic magical beast, immediately devoured the remaining flesh and blood, then obediently followed behind Lin Lei. Leaving the training room, Lin Lei went directly to the testing machine, although this testing machine's measurements were inaccurate. However, it was sufficient for most martial artists. For more precise data, they would have to pay someone to take measurements. Brother, you go first. Although there were still a few people ahead, when they saw that Lin Lei was followed by a magical beast, their expressions changed drastically, and they began to make way. A guy who could tame magical beasts was no ordinary person anywhere. Since he wanted to use the punch strength testing machine, let him use it first. After all, if someone like that held a grudge, who knew when he might suffer retaliation? Seeing these burly men being so respectful to him, Lin Lei was somewhat amused and exasperated. However, being able to save some time was something he was naturally happy to do. Second-tier martial artist. After entering his information, the punching power testing machine raised the test limit to 10 tons, which was the limit for most peak second-tier martial artists, something that ordinary people couldn't break. Exhaling a breath of stale air, Lin Lei clenched his left fist and quietly waited for the test countdown to end. Although he wasn't used to using his left hand, he needed to find his weaknesses during the test. Otherwise, being caught by the enemy on the battlefield would be fatal. You guys think this guy is really a second-tier martial artist? The martial artists who had just moved aside retreated several meters away, now glancing at Lin Lei out of the corner of their eyes. After all, he looked far too young, like a high school senior. At this age, to break through to the second-tier martial artist level, one would probably be protected like a rare animal by the Martial Arts Association. How could he move around so freely without a single guard? I think it's suspicious. He's probably just some rich kid showing off. I can't see through him. I feel his blood and energy are even more vigorous than mine. You're over 30 and he's just come of age. Isn't it normal for him to be more vigorous than you? Exactly, we've cultivated for so many years that our aura is already well controlled. This kid probably can't even control his blood and energy. The martial artists discussed in hushed tones, their words revealing their disbelief that Lin Lei was a genuine second-tier martial artist. The quality of martial artists in Heijiang City wasn't great to begin with. The sudden appearance of a newly adult second-tier martial artist was bound to raise suspicions, but Lin Lei didn't think much of it. Seeing the countdown end, he immediately strained his core, his left fist slamming into the testing machine like a taut spring releasing its tension. Bang, a loud bang rang out, and the numbers on the punching power testing machine began to climb wildly. 1 ton, 3 tons, 5 tons. When the number reached 7 tons, those martial artists who hadn't believed Lin Lei were completely dumbfounded. What terrifying punching power. This person looks so young, yet his punching power is already comparable to a mid-stage second-tier martial artist. However, although they were surprised, the numbers continued to jump. 8 tons, 9 tons, and finally it broke through 10 tons with unstoppable force. It firmly stopped at 12 tons. Holy crap, 12 tons of punching power. His it's already exceeded the peak of a second-tier martial artist by 20%. Is this even human? So young and yet so terrifyingly strong. I've cultivated for over 30 years and my punching power is only 8 tons. Master, please take me in. Instantly, these martial artists were practically begging Lin Lei to teach them. After all, possessing the punching power of a peak second-tier martial artist at such a young age, besides talent, probably requires incredibly rigorous training. If Lin Lei agreed at this point, even if the tuition was 100,000 yuan, people would probably rush to his door. But seeing this, Lin Lei shook his head and then found a place to slip away. He wasn't the type to be a know-it-all, and besides, these people were all over 30. Even if they could improve in the future, their strength would be unlikely to break through to the next level. He didn't have the time or inclination to pave the way for them. Instead of wasting his time, Lin Lei would rather go to the Abyss Rift and kill a few more magical beasts. He might even gain some new rewards. Phew, finally rid of those people. After leaving the Martial Arts Association, Lin Lei was surrounded by the martial artists who had witnessed his punching power. These guys wanted to become stronger martial artists. Some even tried to threaten him with self-harm. Fortunately, Lin Lei wasn't one to be overly compassionate. Let them hurt themselves if they wanted. It wasn't him who would get hurt. After driving around for more than 10 minutes, he finally shook off the group of martial artists and then got into a car heading to the Abyss Rift in Heijiang City. Upon arriving, the place was no longer as bustling as it had been during the initial assessment. The monster horde back then had instilled fear in the martial artists. Therefore, until the cause was investigated, few martial artists would likely be willing to risk entering. Of course, those confident in their own strength were an exception. Please show your identification. Since he was alone, Lin Lei needed to be checked upon entry. He took out his student card and handed it over, but the other person froze after swiping it. On the screen, a long encrypted symbol was displayed, with an explanation below it. This student's information is a state secret. Only the presidents of martial arts associations in various regions have the authority to view it. Free access to any location is permitted. Even if the other person was a soldier of the Demon Suppression Army, they had never seen such an explanation before and were stunned for a long time. Can I have it now? After waiting a while, Lin Lei couldn't help but urge him. Hearing his voice, the other person finally snapped out of their daze. He hurriedly handed his student card back. After carefully putting away the card, Lin Lei was led into the Abyss Rift without even needing to pay any fees. The Demon Suppression Army soldier reported the matter, making sure Chen Pajin was aware of it. Otherwise, if something happened to such a person, the entire Demon Suppression Army would be in deep trouble. Entering the Abyss Rift, Lin Lei couldn't help but sigh at the desolate martial artist camp. The sudden appearance of that oppressive aura last time caused the monster tide, but to this day, he still didn't know how that oppressive aura appeared. Could it be related to Liu Liu? Thinking back to the situation at the time, Lin Lei suspected that perhaps it was because Liu Liu had recognized him as its master that the oppressive aura suddenly descended. Otherwise, such an anomaly, which wouldn't occur even once every 10 years. How could it have happened so suddenly? Lin Lei was still somewhat worried about the monster horde that day. After all, he was only at the second rank. Surviving in that situation was probably impossible. Oh well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. Since I'm already here, even if I encounter a monster horde, Lin Lei will accept it. Although he was worried about another monster horde, he couldn't be too afraid to even enter the Abyss Rift, could he? If that happened, what kind of martial artist would he be? Let's go see what monsters are still in the abyss. Thinking of this, Lin Lei was filled with heroic spirit. He led Liu Liu directly past the martial artist camp and headed straight for the wilderness outside. Perhaps because of the last monster horde, not a single monster could be seen within a 30-mile radius. Aside from the pervasive smell of blood, Lin Lei couldn't find any trace of the monster's existence. But the more this was the case, the more admiration he felt for Chen Lin. As expected of the youngest ninth-tier martial artist in the future, he actually wiped out the entire monster horde. Although he had the assistance of the Demon Suppression Army, with his strength, he must have killed at least 100 monsters. But when I reach the 4th tier, I might not be inferior to him. Lin Lei narrowed his eyes, but suddenly felt a slight tremor in the ground. He quickly pulled Liu Liu into the nearby bushes, but then they discovered that a group of monsters resembling wild boars were running towards them from afar. Upon seeing these magical beasts, Lin Lei instantly raised an eyebrow. What I've been searching for has come to me without any effort. I actually encountered dragon-armored boars here. Dragon-armored boars are second-tier social magical beasts, and their leaders are generally at the peak of the 2nd tier. Due to overhunting, these magical beasts are extremely rare. Furthermore, they possess the bloodline of a dragon, giving their blood the effect of tempering the body, which makes them quite expensive among 2nd-tier magical beasts. It is said that a dragon-armored boar leader once sold for a terrifying price of 1 million yuan, comparable to a peak 3rd-tier magical beast. Moreover, the Research Institute seems to be exploring the domestication of dragon-armored boars, so even if we bring them all back, it would be enough to fetch an astronomical price. Looking at the dozen or so adult male dragon-armored boars, Lin Lei couldn't help but lick his lips. The males forage while the females raise the family. This is the natural behavior of the dragon-armored boars. If he only wanted to sell the monster carcasses, he could act now. But if he wanted to wipe out this group of dragon-armored boars, he needed to find their lair. Soon, accompanied by a tremor, a 3 to 4 meter tall dragon-armored boar appeared. Its scales gleamed coldly and its tusks could pierce even iron. Just its presence alone exuded an oppressive aura. This was the leader of the dragon-armored boars. Even against a peak 2nd-tier martial artist of the same level, it would take at least 20 people to defeat him. Wait patiently until they return. We'll find another chance to take them all down together. Lin Lei, hiding in the bushes, had a glint in his eyes. He then calmed himself, trying his best not to be discovered by the group of magical beasts. In fact, the group of dragon-armored boars weren't that observant. They only briefly explored the situation before scattering to eat. An hour later, as dusk fell, the dragon-armored boars, having eaten their fill, returned. The leader of the dragon-armored boars strolled over from a distance, still chewing on something. Lin Lei looked closely and saw that it was a 1st-tier snake-like magical beast. Even so, the beast was swallowed whole by the dragon-armored boar leader like a spicy snack. HMPH. The dragon-armored boar leader glanced at him. Finding the numbers matched their arrival, they relaxed and headed back. Lin Lei, seeing this, waited until they were far away before stealthily following. The two were 300 or 400 meters apart, and being downwind, he didn't need to worry about being discovered. However, he somewhat underestimated the dragon-armored boar leader's suspiciousness. After circling the mountainous area 7 or 8 times, confirming that no enemies were following, the leader led his group into a narrow passage. That beast is really vigilant. Lin Lei couldn't help but mutter a curse under his breath. After more than 10 minutes, he and Liu Liu stealthily entered. After passing through the passage, he felt a sense of openness. Beyond the passage was a wide grassland, where the well-fed dragon-armored boars began feeding their mates their chewed food. On the grassland, over 20 young dragon-armored wild boars were running around happily. But in Lin Lei's eyes, these weren't magical beasts, but rather lively, leaping gold ingots. Seeing this, he narrowed his eyes slightly and whispered to Liu Liu, "The hunt begins." The hunt begins. Lin Lei's eyes flashed with a cold light as he looked at the group of dragon-armored boars. Then he leaped into the air, his target the boar leader. To catch the thief, first catch the king. This principle is always the most direct and effective, no matter where you are. HMPH. Sensing the sudden killing intent, the boar leader was initially flustered, but then its eyes turned bloodshot and its scales bristled. This was its territory, and it would not allow anyone to cause trouble. With its roar, the remaining boars sprang into action, baring their tusks and charging towards Lin Lei. The cubs and weakened females hid in their caves, quietly awaiting the outcome of the battle. Roar! But at that moment, Liu Liu suddenly leaped out, letting out a deafening roar. The bloodline of the ultimate tiger within it stirred, emanating an inexplicable pressure that caused the group of dragon-armored boars to halt in terror. This was the terrifying power of a cosmic beast's bloodline, an innate, irresistible suppressive force against other magical beasts. Die. Taking advantage of the dragon-armored boar's momentary daze, Lin Lei used his Thunder Shadow Step to swiftly approach the leader, his ninefold thunder force already poised to strike. Bang! This punch directly clashed head-on with the boar's scales. However, even so, the dragon-armored boar leader managed a muffled groan. The mountain of flesh retreated a few steps and was unharmed. It was even more enraged by Lin Lei's attack. HMPH. The peak second-tier magical beast roared, waking the stunned dragon-armored boars. Then, led by its leader, the group of magical beasts launched a charge. Seeing this, Lin Lei's expression changed drastically. This was a horde of magical beasts, and he had already experienced the dragon-armored boar's defense. Even the blood demon flood dragon from before couldn't compare. Even with the gluttonous ring to restore his stamina, he would be worn down and killed by their combined attack. Mission issued: enter the tiger's den, catch the tiger's cub. During a mission, you are surrounded by a horde of monsters. They even treat you like a toy. You calmly think of a solution, but the final tiger can't resist. Please give it a word of encouragement to activate your bond. Mission reward: final tiger roar, monster skill. Roars to intimidate all enemies, then activates your bloodline, increasing your attack power by 1 level for 10 minutes and adding a 1% chance to instantly kill the opponent. The higher the maturity, the stronger the effect. Holy crap! Even Lin Lei was taken aback when he saw the system mission. This time, the reward wasn't for him, but directly bestowed a skill upon Liu Liu. The key is that this skill even has an instant kill effect. Why not take it? Anyone can say a word of encouragement. Liu Liu. As the dragon-armored boars charged, Lin Lei turned to look at Liu Liu. This cub of the endless tiger was gritting its teeth, its eyes filled with resentment. The offspring of a cosmic magical beast was being bullied by a group of second-tier magical beasts. It was an insult to its bloodline. However, upon hearing Lin Lei's call, it immediately turned its head, its eyes meeting Lin Lei's. I believe in you, and you must believe in the bloodline within you. Don't underestimate our bond. A word of encouragement learned from anime came from Lin Lei's mouth, but he felt a sense of shame. But to Liu Liu, it was completely different. It was Lin Lei's encouragement, his affirmation of itself. Previously, Lin Lei always provided the monster corpses for him, but this time, Liu Liu is going to do it himself. Quest complete. Congratulations. Your monster has acquired the skilled tiger's roar. Instantly, a power originating from the depths of its bloodline began to brew within it. Its terrifying aura slowly spread, even making Lin Lei tremble with fear. Roar. When this power reached its peak, a phantom of the ultimate tiger suddenly appeared behind Liu Liu, letting out a silent roar. Boom. With the roar, the charging dragon-armored boars were all jolted to their halt, falling to the ground. At this moment in their eyes, Liu Liu was not a small creature they could easily bully, but a terminator of life. Then Lin Lei saw Liuliu's muscles bulge, its claws gleaming with a blood-red light. Liuliu charged straight at a dragon-armored boar. Although it was only the size of an ordinary domestic dog, it was an absolute powerhouse compared to the 2-meter-tall dragon-armored wild boar. With a single slap, its tiger claw tore open the dragon-armored wild boar's throat, ripping off a large chunk of flesh. Then, the once vibrant second-tier magical beast collapsed to the ground, lifeless. Seeing this, Lin Lei couldn't help but gasp. The bloodline of the cosmic magical beast was terrifyingly powerful. The force of that slap was probably comparable to his own. Well done. But he knew this wasn't the time to be stunned. After slightly composing himself, he immediately joined the battle. The dragon-armored wild boar no longer needed his attention. He only needed to deal with the beast leader. However, seeing its subordinate fall, the dragon-armored boar leader suddenly let out a grunt, and the barbs that had been lying on its body instantly stood up, flying towards it with the force of its chi and blood. Lin Lei, seeing this, didn't hesitate. He used Thunder Shadow Step to dodge the barbs, then grabbed one and thrust it directly at the dragon-armored boar leader. Crack! Under the effect of the Ninefold Thunder Force, the barb pierced directly into the dragon-armored boar leader's eye, instantly turning it into a one-eyed boar. However, before it could even let out a wail, Lin Lei grabbed the dragon-armored boar leader by the neck, and then his chi and blood surged within him. Ninefold Thunder Force, second form, bang. The massive, armored boar leader, resembling a mountain of flesh, was slammed to the ground by Lin Lei, its entire back covered in scales shattered. It's not over yet. Lin Lei gave it no chance to resist, gritting his teeth as he unleashed the third form of the Ninefold Thunder Force. He punched the boar in the chest, right where its heart was. Instantly, a tremendous force shattered the boar leader's internal organs, leaving it lying on the ground with wide eyes, utterly unable to believe its fate. As a peak second-tier magical beast leader, to be killed by a human with just 3 punches, even if it were reincarnated, it probably wouldn't understand. Seeing the boar leader lifeless, Lin Lei tossed it to the ground. At this moment, Liu had already finished the hunt. The final tiger's attack power was already formidable. Even without triggering an instant kill, it could kill those dragon-armored boars within 3 moves. Now, apart from the cubs, all the other adult magical beasts were dead. Well done, I'll reward you when we get back. Lin Lei patted Liu's head, his eyes filled with joy. There were over 30 dragon-armored boar carcasses. Even if each one only sold for an average of 300,000, that would still be tens of millions, not to mention the cubs. At first, he thought this exploration of the Abyss Rift would be fruitless, but he didn't expect such a great harvest. He took a deep breath to compose himself and put the magical beast carcasses into his treasure bead. First, they made small cages out of branches, put the baby monsters inside, and then cleaned themselves off before returning the way they came. Perhaps it was because of Liuliu's presence, Lin Lei couldn't sense any living creatures along the way. Originally, due to the last monster tide, the surrounding monsters had been hunted down to nothing, and now there wasn't a single moving thing to be seen, making it even more desolate. Take out the corpses first. 10 kilometers from the martial artist camp, Lin Lei stopped and took out all the monster corpses. After all, although spatial storage devices were available on the market, their prices were definitely beyond his reach. So to avoid unnecessary trouble, he decided not to attract too much attention. Leaving 2 monster corpses for Liu, Lin Lei headed towards the martial artist camp, leaving Liu to guard the place. I need to see researcher Chu Kuang. Back at the martial artist camp, Lin Lei went straight to the Underground Research Institute and got to the point with the guards. Since they had seen Lin Lei before, the guards didn't dare delay and immediately called out Chu Kuang. What are you doing? Chu Kuang was very unhappy that his research had been interrupted, but his mood immediately changed when he saw it was Lin Lei. This was a treasure trove. Even if he had to forego food, sleep, and marriage, he absolutely couldn't let go of this excellent research subject. Senior Chu, come with me. Lin Lei kept them in suspense for a moment, then led the puzzled Chu Kuang away from the martial arts camp. However, for Chu Kuang's safety, 10 soldiers from the Demon Suppression Army followed. When they arrived at Liu's location, the Demon Suppression Army soldiers were initially surprised. He immediately prepared to drive away the magical beast. Stop. Seeing this, Lin Lei quickly stopped him, then clapped his hands amidst the astonished gazes of the crowd. Liu, come here. Hearing Lin Lei's call, Liu immediately came running over, showing none of the arrogance of a magical beast. Seeing this, everyone couldn't help but gasp. To be able to tame a magical beast, this young man was truly terrifying. Chu Kuang, however, saw Liu and his eyes lit up, not wanting to look away. He had never seen this magical beast before. It was extremely strange. Lin Lei is surrounded by good things. Chu Kuang licked his lips. His resolve hardened further. This Lin Lei wasn't just a treasure trove of talent himself, even the magical beasts around him were treasures. He absolutely couldn't allow himself to miss out on such a valuable research group. Ahem, Senior Chu. However, seeing Chu Kuang's gaze, Lin Lei could only cough twice to divert his attention. Last time he was almost dissected by this research maniac, and now he'd set his sights on his magical beasts again. This guy was simply too dangerous. Go ahead. Seeing this, Chu Kuang composed himself and looked back at Lin Lei. Seeing him shift his gaze, Lin Lei breathed a sigh of relief and then pointed ahead. These are the corpses of the dragon-armored boar herd. Last night, I raided their lair and wiped them all out. These are the baby dragon-armored boars. I know the Research Institute is buying them at high prices, so I'm planning to exchange them for some money. Lin Lei's words spread, immediately stunning everyone. Killing the dragon-armored boars, of course, they could understand it. After all, they were only second-tier magical beasts. They could be killed with the right methods. But what does it mean to wipe out the entire magical beast herd? You must know that dragon-armored boars aren't just herd animals. They also have an incredibly powerful leader. To wipe out the entire herd, you have to kill the dragon-armored boar leader too. And what about the baby magical beasts? Don't they run away during battle? Are you kidding me? A soldier from the Demon Suppression Army couldn't help but speak up. He had participated in numerous battles and had never heard of anyone being able to wipe out a whole pack of magical beasts, let alone bring back a cub. Hearing him speak, the other soldiers from the Demon Suppression Army also gave Lin Lei a way out. Haha, you must be mistaken. Dragon-armored boars are incredibly powerful. How could you possibly take them down? Exactly, it must just be a first-tier magical beast that looks a lot like a dragon-armored boar. It's fine for young people to be a little arrogant, but they can't just start bragging because they have the ability. These soldiers from the Demon Suppression Army spoke one by one, some with a hint of teasing towards Lin Lei, but ultimately none of them spoke ill of him. Lin Lei shook his head at this and then walked forward. Shut up. Seeing this scene, Chu Kuang initially thought Lin Lei was talking nonsense, but seeing his serious expression, he felt there was some possibility to it. Following Lin Lei forward, Chu Kuang instantly froze on the spot. Holy shit. Are you a monster? The corpses of magical beasts scattered everywhere reeked of blood. Most shockingly, the corpse of the beast leader was also placed to the side, emanating a faint aura of power. Moreover, after identifying these magical beasts, Chu Kuang instantly recognized them as the dragon-armored wild boar herd. Adding to this, the hungry cubs nearby were constantly howling, and Chu Kuang was certain. This Lin Lei. He actually managed to wipe out the herd of dragon-armored boars single-handedly, and even brought back the monster cubs. Hearing Chu Kuang's exclamation, the soldiers of the Demon Suppression Army stepped forward, then fell silent, stunned. They had heard of geniuses who could single-handedly fight monsters, and had even witnessed Chen Lin's battles against monster hordes. But after seeing Lin Lei and this herd of dragon-armored boars, they finally understood what true prodigy was. Chen Lin was strong, but that was because he possessed the strength of a fourth-tier martial artist, allowing him to handle monster hordes with ease. But what about Lin Lei? The last time they saw him was during the martial arts examination, when he was only 18 years old. Then, last time he struggled to kill the leader of the fanged rats, and now he's already wiped out a herd of dragon-armored boars. This rate of growth can only be described in 4 words. Terrifying. You guys did it. After a long silence, Chu Kuang swallowed hard, his voice trembling slightly. Yes. Lin Lei nodded easily. There was no need to hide this. He had long been under the watchful eyes of those above, and now was the time to demonstrate his value. It wasn't about getting people to recruit him, but about making people wary of him so they wouldn't dare harm him or his family. Okay. After several deep breaths, Chu Kuang finally accepted this reality. He finally understood that Lin Lei's terrifying talent was likely the main reason for the special treatment he received. I'll handle these things for you. You don't need to worry about the money. I estimate it will be at least 15 million, and it will arrive in 3 days. Doing business is incredibly easy for Chu Kuang, especially the carcass of the dragon-armored boar. He almost never has trouble selling it. Seeing him agree, Lin Lei nodded. Thank you, Senior Chu. After exchanging pleasantries, the two took the monster carcass back to the martial artist camp. while Lin Lei left the Abyss Rift to inquire about the relocation. Just after Lin Lei left the spatial rift, Chu Kuang immediately reported the incident. What, you mean Lin Lei wiped out the entire herd of dragon-armored boars? Chen Pajun's sharp voice came from the other end of the phone. Chen Pajun was trembling. He had never heard such exhilarating news before. The last time his nephew Chen Lin, after breaking through to the second-tier martial artist, had only managed to kill a single magical beast of the same level. And that opponent had reinforcements, and he ultimately fought back with severe injuries. But now Lin Lei and his little magical beast had wiped out an entire herd of dragon-armored boars, even bringing back the cubs. This operation far exceeded Chen Pajun's imagination. Therefore, the fact that he can still stand is a testament to his strong control. Most people, upon hearing this, would probably faint from excitement or even go into shock due to the shocking news. What? Chu Kuang had anticipated Chen Pajun's reaction. After all, he had also mentally blanked out at the time. If someone hadn't been there to support him, he probably would have collapsed to the ground. Hearing his words, Chen Pajun took deep breaths, his chest heaving, his face displaying a strange expression. Good, good. After a long silence, he uttered only a few words, but Chu Kuang sensed the expectation and hope within them. Chen Lin's appearance refreshed the ceiling of geniuses in Heijiang City, while Lin Lei's appearance, but he directly shattered the upper limit of geniuses in the entire Great Xia Kingdom and even the world. What is a genius? Can you destroy a monster's lair after breaking through to the second-tier martial artist level? Can you enter the Abyss Rift alone and bring back a monster cub? If you can't even do these two things, what kind of genius are you? Chen Pajun keenly realized that from today onwards, the entire world would likely be changed because of Lin Lei's appearance. Once he grows to the 5th or 6th tier martial artist level, he will probably become the brightest star in the world. Hanging up the phone, he immediately relayed the call to Chen Lin. Uncle, what's up? Chen Lin was still soaking in the medicinal pool, not only to heal Lin Lei's injuries, but also to temper his physical body. Lin Lei entered the Abyss Rift. I know. He killed a second-tier magical beast. His tilde interesting. And he wiped out the dragon-armored boar herd and brought back the cubs. What? Upon hearing that Lin Lei had actually wiped out an entire magical beast herd, Chen Lin stood up abruptly from the medicine pool, his mouth agape, wide enough to fit a fist. A second-tier martial artist wiped out a second-tier magical beast's lair and brought back magical beast cubs. He recognized these words, but why did they sound so unfamiliar when put together? And judging from his uncle's tone, which didn't sound like he was joking at all, Chen Lin finally realized just how monstrous his teammate was. It's true. After a long silence, Chen Pajun finally spoke slowly. So you need to be careful about his parents' house. At least make sure it's absolutely safe. Even if the Heijiang city government building explodes, his parents can't be harmed. Okay. Chen Lin readily agreed to this condition. He knew Lin Lei's family situation. Besides his parents, he had no relatives. As long as he protected the softest part of his heart, no one could bribe Lin Lei, no matter how high the price. Although geniuses have their pride and aren't so easily bought, it's always good to have a safeguard. I'll call Lin Lei over this afternoon and officially have him join my team. Whether he chooses to go to university or stay in the Martial Arts Association in the future. At least our impression of Heijiang City won't be too bad. Chen Lin explained his plan and Chen Pajun didn't object. After instructing him to do everything in his power to meet Lin Lei's demands, the two hung up. Sitting in his seat, Chen Pajun silently lit a cigarette. He gazed towards the Abyss Rift, his eyes incredibly deep as he murmured, "What exactly exists in the abyss? Perhaps that little guy can bring me a different kind of surprise." Ayona. That afternoon, Lin Lei, who was looking at houses with his parents, was summoned to the association by phone. To avoid worrying his parents, he didn't tell them he had entered the Abyss Rift, only saying he was cultivating outside. "Brother Chen, what's going on?" Entering the Martial Arts Association, Lin Lei found Chen Lin waiting for him at the entrance with two female martial artists he had met before. Seeing this, he was somewhat taken aback. He shouldn't be being treated with such importance, should he? Come in and talk. Chen Lin greeted Lin Lei with a smile, and then the group entered a meeting room. After sitting down, Chen Lin served tea and then said, "Lin Lei, your house has been found." Turning left 100 meters outside the Martial Arts Association, there's a villa for sale there. My uncle bought it, and now I'm giving you the property certificate. With that, Chen Lin took out the property certificate and placed it in front of Lin Lei. Upon hearing this, Lin Lei raised an eyebrow. That location is practically the most expensive area in Hejiang City. I've never had trouble selling, let alone selling it. It's probably because the other party knows about my achievements that they've decided to sell the villa. The two female martial artists, however, raised their eyebrows in disbelief. They couldn't understand why their captain was being so polite to a high school senior. Also, the association has specially approved that all your cultivation resources are free. Just register what you want and take it yourself. Putting aside everything else, the association really values talent. This next sentence surprised Lin Lei even more. After all, the Martial Arts Association has many expenses, yet they're offering me a free trial. Something's not right, very not right. There's definitely something I can't believe. But right now, I really need a lot of materials for cultivation, so I didn't refuse. Thank you. Lin Lei nodded, tacitly agreeing to the deal with Chen Lin. Upon hearing this, Chen Lin couldn't help but smile and nod. He wasn't afraid Chen Lin would accept these things, rather, he was afraid Chen Lin would refuse. However, as soon as he finished speaking, the two female martial artists behind him couldn't hold back any longer. What talent do you have to be so impolite? Even the captain wouldn't dare to be so shameless. What right do you, a student who has just entered the second tier, have to demand so much? Don't talk about your battle record. I, Liu Xuan, have seen plenty of fakes like this. If you've got the guts, let's go and have a match. The tall woman named Liu Xuan stepped forward, her face still showing indignation. Hearing her words, Chen Lin immediately frowned, about to retort, but then he heard Lin Lei's voice. Sure, if you want to practice, then do it now. Lin Lei stood up, a confident look on his face. Meanwhile, in his mind, the system's voice kept echoing. Shall we spar now? Lin Lei's voice echoed in the room, startling the other female martial artist. She never expected Lin Lei to agree to Liu Xuan's challenge so readily. Chen Lin, however, shook his head with a wry smile but didn't stop him. After all, he knew his two teammates' personalities all too well. The best way to convince the two women was to defeat them directly. Otherwise, no amount of talking would help. Fine, I'll go. Captain Moru, come and take a look too. I, Liu Xuan, will personally remove this guy's mask of genius today. Liu Xuan's tone was very impolite. After saying this, she strode away. Seeing this, Lin Lei glanced at Chen Lin with some confusion, only to find that the other man was also shrugging helplessly. Seeing Chen Lin's reaction, Lin Lei could only assume that the two female martial artists were simply annoyed with him, so he followed Liu Xuan into a training room. Liu Xuan was already prepared. The long robe she had been wearing was gone, leaving her in a martial artist's bodysuit. Her skin was a healthy tan, and she looked incredibly capable. Come on, little guy, don't cry if you lose. After everyone entered the room, Liu Xuan provocatively beckoned to Lin Lei. In her view, so what if Lin Lei was a second-tier martial artist at his age? He was nothing more than a fake genius built on resources. First place in the martial arts examination. Although Liu Xuan wasn't from Hejiang City, she had still won first place in the martial arts examination. Now, with so many years of combat experience, she believed that, putting aside everything else, there weren't many people of the same cultivation level who could defeat her. Heh, make your move. Lin Lei didn't react to her provocation. Instead, he calmly walked to the opposite side and assumed a fighting stance. Seeing his contempt, Liu Xuan was instantly enraged. Ha! She let out a low shout, and then her entire body disappeared from everyone's sight. This was the movement technique she had been practicing all along, called the Phantom Step, which could greatly improve her speed in all aspects. Seeing that Liu Xuan hadn't held back even while suppressing her strength, Chen Lin frowned. Although he hadn't gained the upper hand in a head-on clash with Lin Lei, he knew Lin Lei's speed was his weakness, and he estimated it would be difficult for him to defeat Liu Xuan. As for Moru, she was now holding her head high with arrogance. What kind of person dares to want to be in their team? It would be fine if she kept a low profile, but to arrive and immediately draw the captain's attention, if they didn't suppress her, wouldn't she start looking down on everyone? Interesting, but I wonder if you can keep up with my speed. Seeing this, Lin Lei's eyes flashed with excitement. Since acquiring the Thunder Shadow Step, he hadn't had a chance to use it at full strength. Now that he had encountered a martial artist who could rival him in speed, he was naturally eager for a challenge. As soon as he finished speaking, Lin Lei used the Thunder Shadow Step. A blur of motion remained in the air. HMPH boasting. However, Liu Xuan had already reached Lin Lei. She threw a punch that pierced through Lin Lei's chest. Seeing this, Chen Lin raised an eyebrow. If he had worried that Lin Lei's victory would be difficult, it seemed he had misjudged him, because Liu Xuan hadn't struck Lin Lei's physical body, but rather the lingering blur in the air. Still too slow. Liu Xuan watched the blur disappear, then suddenly heard Lin Lei's voice behind her, instantly sending chills down her spine. She quickly twisted her body, her right leg whipping out like a whip. However, the next second, she felt as if she had kicked a steel plate. She didn't know if the other person was all right, but she herself was completely numb from the shock. Not enough strength. With one hand gripping Liu Xuan's ankle, Lin Lei's face was full of ease. The opponent was fast and not weak. Even against a typical peak second-tier martial artist, he would have a 90% chance of winning. But unfortunately, Liu Xuan had encountered him, and after learning the Thunder Shadow Step, you let go of me. Holding her like this, even Liu Xuan felt her pretty face flush slightly, and she couldn't help but scold him in a soft voice. If outsiders saw her in this embarrassed state, she would truly lose face. Hearing this, Lin Lei smiled. All right. He released Liu Xuan's ankle and then threw a punch. Bang. Although it wasn't a direct hit due to deliberate control, the powerful force of the punch still sent Liu Xuan flying, crashing into the wall. Looking at Liu Xuan lying on the ground, Lin Lei's eyes were expressionless. Provoking him was nothing. As long as he could bear the consequences, Lin Lei wouldn't utter a single word. Not bad, you've improved since last time. Seeing this, Chen Lin couldn't help but applaud. Last time he fought Lin Lei, speed was his weakness. Now his speed was even faster than Liu Xuan's. This terrifying talent for cultivation was several times that of Chen Lin himself. Mission complete. Congratulations on obtaining the dual pill. The system's voice came through. Lin Lei also had a pill in his hand. He tossed it into his mouth as he turned around but felt no change. After all, this kind of pill only shows its effect in battle. He could carefully feel it during future battles. Hee, Brother Chen, you flatter me. Lin Lei still admired Chen Lin. The youngest ninth-level martial artist in the future, coupled with his broad-mindedness, makes him a very good person to befriend. I came here today to introduce you to my two teammates, but now we've become acquainted through a fight. The one you just knocked down is Liu Xuan, skilled in surprise attacks and assassinations. This is Mo Ru, a top-tier martial arts expert. If it were just a matter of pure martial arts skills, I wouldn't be her match. Although he already knew the names of the two female warriors, Chen Lin still emphasized their introductions. Hearing this, Lin Lei couldn't help but glance at the female warrior named Mo Ru. She appeared slender, only slightly shorter than Chen Lin. If it weren't for the occasional flash of cold light in her eyes, everyone would probably think she was just a harmless model. Welcome to the team. Mo Ru's face no longer showed any arrogance. Instead, she extended her hand first. Seeing this, Lin Lei shook her hand, instantly noticing that although her palm didn't have calluses, it still gave him a strange feeling. This girl is not to be underestimated. Lin Lei's evaluation of Mo Ru rose another level. To be able to make even herself feel uneasy, Mo Ru's strength must be even more terrifying than Liu Xuan's. Welcome. Liu Xuan, having caught her breath, walked over somewhat irritably, but still extended her hand to bump fists with Lin Lei, a form of acknowledgement. Seeing the easing of tension among them, Chen Lin breathed a sigh of relief, then looked at Lin Lei. Reply first, then I'll take you to meet my uncle and a few admissions officers from the school. The prices these guys are offering are quite tempting, you'd better hold back. Hearing Chen Lin's words, Lin Lei immediately became curious. What kind of conditions could even tempt them? The group left the training room and entered the Martial Arts Association's secret chamber. Lin Lei saw 5 people sitting inside. Upon seeing Lin Lei enter, these people instantly stood up, their eyes burning with fervor as if they were looking at the most precious jewel in the world. Come, Lin Lei, sit down. You old guys, calm down, don't scare him. Chen Pajun quickly spoke with a smile. He knew these people's personalities all too well. They couldn't resist a genius. Not to mention that he had truthfully explained Lin Lei's situation. They probably wanted nothing more than to take Lin Lei back to the academy immediately and then pour all their resources into training him into a top-tier martial artist. But even if they were anxious, it was useless because everything depended on Lin Lei's own wishes. Hearing him speak, the elderly men gradually calmed down and sat down. It wasn't that they lacked composure, but Lin Lei's talent was simply too astonishing. Based on all known martial arts talents, he was already in a league of his own, far surpassing everyone else. A student like this would be irresistible to any school. Even Chen Lin and his two companions, who prided themselves on having seen it all, were somewhat taken aback by this scene. He remembered the scene after he displayed his talent. Setting aside the treatment, the attitudes of the people were worlds apart. He himself had a chance to be fully nurtured by a top martial arts university, while Lin Lei was being begged by a top martial arts university to nurture him. Taking a deep breath to regain his composure, Chen Lin led the others to sit down. Lin Lei looked at the 5 representatives from the top universities before him. His eyes held a scrutinizing look. Judging from the school badges, these people should come from the 5 top universities in the Great Xia Kingdom: Kyoto University, Shanghai University, Shenzhou University, Guangnan University, and Tankyang University. These 5 schools are among the best in the entire Great Xia Kingdom in terms of both teaching quality and student quality. Shenzhou University, in particular, is known as a university that only geniuses can enter. Although its student body is small, it is recognized as the #1 martial arts university in the Great Xia Kingdom. All right, name your conditions. If the conditions are too low, even if Lin Lei is willing to go, I won't let him go. Chen Pajin, seeing that the time was almost up, simply spoke up. Seeing this, someone immediately stepped forward: Lin Lei. Our Kyoto University is willing to provide all the resources you need to cultivate to the 7th level martial artist level. Even if you want to break through to a higher level in the future, we can provide half of the resources. The first to speak was an elderly man with gray hair, his gaze fixed intently on Lin Lei. However, upon hearing this, Lin Lei frowned slightly. While the 7th level martial artist level is considered the limit for some top geniuses, his current talent far surpasses that of so-called geniuses. Although breaking through to the 8th or 9th level requires not only talent but also good fortune, Kyoto University's offer seems rather stingy. Thinking of this, Lin Lei couldn't help but look at the next person. Seeing this, the person in charge at Kyoto University shook his head. This was the greatest sincerity he could offer. After all, there are other students at Kyoto University. If too many resources are given away, the other students might be dissatisfied. Our Magic City University is willing to provide all the resources you need for cultivation. In the future, once you become a 5th-tier martial artist, you can hold a position at the university. Once you break through to the 7th-tier martial artist, you can become a professor. Furthermore, we will have the cultivation resources for your children and parents. Compared to Kyoto University, Magic City University's conditions are undoubtedly much better. Hearing this, Chen Lin couldn't help but be tempted. His hands were clenched into fists, his palms already soaked with sweat. If these conditions were available to him in his graduation year, he would agree to them even if it meant a slower cultivation pace. As for Liu Xuan and Mo Ru, they were also dumbfounded. These conditions weren't just for attracting geniuses, they were practically treating Lin Lei like royalty. They exchanged a glance, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. Just moments ago, they had been provoking Lin Lei, and now they couldn't even beat him, let alone receive the same treatment. However, despite this treatment, Lin Lei's expression softened, but he still hadn't made a decision. He looked at the remaining 3 and said, "3 seniors, why don't you all speak at once? That way, I can make a decision faster." After he finished speaking, everyone looked at the remaining 3, and then they began to state the maximum amount of resources and treatment they could offer. However, these offers are roughly the same as those from Shanghai University, except they promise Lin Lei he'll be allowed into the Abyss operation, instead of being stuck at the university. After hearing the conditions from the remaining 2, a hint of disappointment flashed in Lin Lei's eyes. He believed that with the system's existence, becoming a 9th-tier martial artist was almost a certainty, but even so, he still couldn't get satisfactory terms. However, he also understood that the Great Xia Kingdom was like this. It wouldn't seize everyone's resources for his own sake. "Senior, please speak." Lin Lei focused his attention on the last person, the head of Shenzhou University and also the youngest. When the other person saw Lin Lei looking at him, he cleared his throat and then smiled calmly. The 4 seniors are still limited in their perspectives. Such a talent, yet you dare not let them break the rules. In my opinion, Kaiyan Zhen, that's utterly outdated. The middle-aged man named Kaiyan Zhen spoke loudly, instantly startling everyone. Lin Lei looked at him with curiosity in his eyes. He wanted to know what conditions Shenzhou University could offer. Shenzhou University only accepts geniuses, but we are even more interested in prodigies. Lin Lei, as long as you come to our school, all resources will be tilted towards you. Your parents, we will assign special personnel to take care of them. there will absolutely be no problems. Moreover, we will not restrict any of your movements. Your combat strength has already proven that you can even go down into the abyss alone without any harm. Therefore, the school will not impose any restrictions on you. As long as you dare to name your conditions, Shenzhou University will agree to them all. Kaiyan Zhen stared intently at Lin Lei, and upon hearing these words, everyone's hearts trembled. What is the treatment of a prodigy? This is the treatment a prodigy deserves. Whatever he wants, he'll get, without any restrictions. In the 100 years since martial arts flourished, Lin Lei is currently the only one for whom Shenzhou University has offered such a price. Instantly, Chen Pajun and the 4 other school leaders trembled. As expected of the #1 martial arts university in the Great Xia Kingdom, they dare to offer such a price. Although it's a bit risky, if Lin Lei can become a 9th-level martial artist, then in the future, Shenzhou University will likely become a holy land that everyone dreams of. Okay. Upon hearing this condition, Lin Lei didn't hesitate at all. He was a prodigy, so his treatment naturally couldn't be compared to that of a genius. Shenzhou University had already offered him a price he could accept, and he had no reason to refuse. Hearing Lin Lei agree, Kaiyan Zhen also breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Pajun stood up with a smile, his gaze sweeping over Lin Lei and Kaiyan Zhen. Shenzhou University is very generous, but I, Chen Pajun, won't be stingy either. Chen Lin will take you to train in the abyss for the next 2 months. Just treat him as a tool. I'll also reserve a position for you in the Martial Arts Association for your 4 years of university. As long as you succeed, I, Chen Pajun, will cover all the resource costs. These words shocked everyone. With the support of the Martial Arts Association, the Demon Suppression Army, and Shenzhou University, even a pig could take off, given Lin Lei's talent, perhaps in the next 10 years. No, very likely within 5 years, they will witness the birth of the youngest 9th-tier martial artist in history. Now that Lin Lei has made his choice, the others stopped arguing. After confirming that Lin Lei would only enter Shenzhou University in September, Kaiyan Zhen left with the others. By the way, Lin Lei, now that you've joined Shenzhou University, here's a gift for you. This is a 5th-tier martial art called Blazing Fist. Although its rank isn't very high, it's still a rare martial art. With that, Kaiyan Zhen handed over a USB drive. The others raised their eyebrows slightly upon hearing this. Blazing Fist, this was a martial art created by a genius martial artist at Shenzhou University. Every move could make the opponent feel as if they were being burned by flames. Such a move should theoretically be learned only after a student enters the university, but unexpectedly, it was given to Lin Lei directly. It's truly worthy of Shenzhou University. Thank you. Lin Lei nodded his thanks, then watched them all leave. After they were out of sight, Chen Lin led Lin Lei and the others back to the Martial Arts Association. You heard it too, focus on improving your cultivation level during this time. I'll guide you as much as I can. Just tell me if you need anything. Chen Lin, covered in sweat, sat on the sofa. He had been quite confident in his talent, but after seeing the attitude of those top martial arts universities towards Lin Lei, he suddenly realized something. The gap between geniuses is like a chasm. His talent could crush ordinary martial artists, but Lin Lei could crush him just as easily. Upon hearing this, Lin Lei frowned, then asked the question he'd always wanted to know. Brother Chen, what exactly happened with the last monster tide? I always felt it came too suddenly, as if something was pushing it from behind. Hearing his question, Chen Lin, who had finally relaxed, immediately straightened up, while Liu Xuan and Mo Ru's expressions also turned serious. Seeing their reaction, Lin Lei knew perfectly well that the reason had already been investigated, but it hadn't been made public. This is a bit troublesome. Your strength shouldn't allow you to know, but since you're a member of our team, I'll just be frank. After a long silence, Chen Lin sighed, finally deciding to tell Lin Lei about it. A demonic seed has appeared within the spatial rift. Based on estimations, its strength should be no less than the 3rd rank. As soon as the words fell, Lin Lei felt a jolt in his heart. A demonic seed. Something he had only ever seen in textbooks had actually appeared. Unlike the native demonic beasts of the abyss, the appearance of a demonic seed always signified an impending great crisis. Because demonic seeds are not these beasts but warriors mutated by the abyss. However, the conditions for mutating warriors are extremely harsh. It could be said that out of 10,000 mutated warriors, perhaps only one could barely succeed. Moreover, these demonic seeds not only retain human rationality, but because they have absorbed the power of the abyss, their talents have become even more terrifying, and even their bodies begin to evolve in the direction of abyssal demonic beasts. This is why some researchers believe that the ancestors of those high-level magical beasts with intelligence comparable to humans were likely intelligent beings mutated by the abyss. So, the last magical beast tide was caused by the demonic race beginning a large-scale massacre. After composing himself, Lin Lei slowly exhaled. Due to their physical mutation, high-level magical beasts generally enter a state of slumber to slow down the consumption of their vital energy. However, once they awaken, they will begin a large-scale massacre and devour of all living things to accumulate power for their next long slumber. As for low-level magical beasts, they need to constantly kill magical beasts to increase their strength, and consuming large amounts of magical beast flesh also strengthens their connection with the abyss. In that case, if the appearance of the demon seed caused the monster tide, then everything makes sense. Very likely, at least based on the current clues, it should be caused by the appearance of the demon seed. Chen Lin nodded, a solemn look flashing in his eyes. Not because of fear of strength, but because the appearance of the demon seed was too accidental. After all, such beings only live in abyssal fragments comparable to small worlds, completely unsuitable for the abyssal rifts of Heijiang City. Even because of the appearance of Lin Lei, a monstrous genius, Chen Lin had the feeling, as if the appearance of this demon seed was the abyss's way of killing Lin Lei. Thinking of this, he looked at Lin Lei, only to find the latter like a wooden statue. And at this moment, Lin Lei was indeed not focusing his attention on the appearance of the demon seed. Instead, he focused his attention on his mind. Mission issued, hunt the demon seed. The demon seed is almost synonymous with terror. Finally, you felt a bit of pressure. Due to your unparalleled talent, the Abyss Rift in Heijiang City has even specially spawned a 7th-tier demon seed to hunt you down. With the help of your team, hunt it down and let the Abyss know who the real hunter is. Mission reward Heavenly Demon Pill. After consumption, it will increase all attributes. The fewer people involved in the hunt, the more significant the effect. When Lin Lei saw this reward, his eyes instantly turned red. A 7th-tier demon seed, that's something for 20 years from now. Right now, the opponent's strength is only 3rd tier. Even if the demon seed's strength can even challenge across realms, my current strength isn't bad either. Lin Lei felt the surging blood and energy within him, his eyes filled with fighting spirit. His current strength was probably that of a late-stage 2nd-tier martial artist. Perhaps after a few more sessions of practicing the dragon elephant body refining technique, he could reach the peak of the 2nd-tier martial artist. Once he broke through to the 3rd tier, this demonic creature would be no match for him. Furthermore, having taken the dual pill, he might even be able to kill it in a one-on-one duel. But the most important thing now is to enter the Abyss Rift and find the demonic creature's trail. Once I make a breakthrough, I can kill it completely. Lin Lei licked his lips, and when he looked up, his gaze met Chen Lin's. At this moment, Chen Lin, a 4th-tier martial artist, felt that he couldn't see through Lin Lei's thoughts. Knowing of the existence of the demon seed, this guy is still so calm, even subtly showing a desire for battle. Could this be the mindset of a prodigy? But for safety's sake, he can't take the risk. His own safety, Liu Xuan's safety, and Moru's safety aren't that important, but Lin Lei's strength is still too weak. It's best if he can grow up in a safe place. Later, we'll train. Captain, let's go to the abyss. Chen Lin was about to speak when Lin Lei interrupted him. For a moment, everyone looked at Lin Lei in astonishment, wondering why he would suddenly say such a thing. However, Lin Lei had already prepared his words. He swept his gaze across everyone and said decisively, a martial artist should face the storm head-on. Moreover, the existence of the demonic seed is always a threat. We should hunt demonic beasts while searching for its tracks. Whether we kill it or report it to the association, it's better than letting it roam freely. Hearing this, Chen Lin nodded. Although it's somewhat dangerous, with my strength, I shouldn't have any problems. Thinking this, he made a decision. In that case, let's continue our training in the abyss. We'll meet at the association tomorrow morning. Let's enter the abyss together. The next day, Lin Lei emerged from his newly moved-in large villa. Looking at the bustling streets, he couldn't help but exhale a sigh of relief. Last night, he had reviewed the blazing fist technique on his USB drive. Although it was a 5th-tier martial art, his innate demonic body possessed an extraordinary learning ability. In just one night, he had mastered the blazing fist technique. Except for the moves he couldn't use due to his martial artist level restrictions, the other moves had become second nature to him. The efficiency of the association's support is truly impressive. They've moved everything over in just one day. I owe them a huge favor this time. After parting ways with the others yesterday, Lin Lei inquired about the surrounding property prices. Although property prices in Heijiang City weren't high, this place was still close to the Martial Arts Association. Therefore, the minimum total price for a house would be tens of millions. Chen Pajin just gave it away like that. Although he could eventually buy it himself, it still saved him a lot of money. Since I didn't join the demon suppression army, I can just hunt a few more demonic beasts to repay them. Lin Lei stretched, then took Liu Liu and headed straight for the Martial Arts Association. He no longer needed to worry about his parents' safety and cultivation. Now he just needed to grow up as quickly as possible. Arriving at the Martial Arts Association, Lin Lei entered the office from yesterday and saw Chen Lin and the other two already waiting for him in the room. Let's go. Seeing Lin Lei arrive, Chen Lin didn't hesitate and led his men directly to the Abyss Rift. Although he still thought this was somewhat risky, there were no other good training grounds available at the moment. After all, that's how martial artists are. They can only grow stronger through constant battles. Not long after, the group entered the Abyss Rift. Since there had been no further disturbances, more and more martial artists began entering the Abyss, and the martial artist camp returned to its former liveliness. Hey beautiful, let's team up. Just 4 people, we're planning to hunt second-tier magical beasts, want to join us. Have you heard? Something seems to be frantically hunting magical beasts in the eastern forest. Who knows? Maybe some martial artist has gone mad. Tusk, their methods are truly terrifying. I heard they can't even find a single intact corpse among those magical beasts. Well, many martial artists discussed in hushed tones. Some people even rushed over eagerly upon seeing Liu Xuan and Mo Ru. After all, female martial artists are rare, let alone 2 women with outstanding looks. However, looking at this group of second-tier martial artists, Lin Lei shook his head. They were truly courting death. If they knew the identities of the 2 women, they would probably be too scared to speak. Did you hear that? There's something in the forest to the east. After the group had walked some distance, Chen Lin's tone was somewhat low. The demonic seed has begun to grow. If we don't take countermeasures soon, we might miss its weakest moment. It must be the demonic seed slaughtering demonic beasts. Otherwise, who would do such a thing for no reason? Liu Xuan's eyebrows furrowed. How could she possibly remain silent in the face of such a situation? After all, magical beasts are a kind of resource, and it's just being wasted like this. Let's go take a look. Chen Lin squinted, then led the team towards the eastern forest. However, Lin Lei frowned. He had a feeling things weren't so simple. After all, the demonic seed possesses human intelligence. It couldn't possibly be unaware that its rampage would be discovered. Moreover, the eastern forest isn't far from the martial artist camp. 200 kilometers is only a 10-minute distance for a second-tier martial artist. It shouldn't be so foolish as to cause such a commotion here. So there must be other circumstances. Otherwise, there's no way to explain why the demonic seed would take such a risk. As the forest drew ever closer, Lin Lei's gaze grew increasingly serious. Soon, the group entered the forest. They hadn't gone far when they smelled a strong stench of blood. Be careful. Chen Lin's tone was grave, his eyes constantly scanning the surroundings, fearing a sudden attack from the demonic creatures. However, Lin Lei noticed something in the grass. Parting it, he discovered a dismembered demonic beast carcass. His action immediately attracted the attention of the others, who gathered around to examine the corpse with grave expressions. The corpse was dismembered, but there were no obvious signs of tearing or biting. Moreover, there were no signs of combat on the corpse. It didn't look like it had been the site of a brutal battle. This doesn't fit the habits of the demon race. Lin Lei crouched down and examined the entire corpse. He concluded that the demon beast's carcass couldn't possibly be the work of a demon race. He then cleared away the grass, only to find faint footprints beneath it. Follow them. Although the footprints were very faint, Chen Lin decided to follow them anyway. Hearing this, Lin Lei called to Liu Liu to lead the way. As a final tiger, Liu Liu's ability to track scents far surpassed that of ordinary demon beasts. It memorized the scent and then took off running. Soon, Lin Lei and the others followed it to another patch of grass. Upon closer inspection, there was yet another demonic beast corpse. Still the same, no signs of battle. This looks like a single, fatal blow. It doesn't seem like they were trying to absorb the beast's life force. It's more like they were training their combat skills. Lin Lei's eyes were filled with confusion. If it wasn't the predation of a demonic creature, then who was hunting demonic beasts here? It's only been a few days, yet everyone in the martial arts camp already knows about it. It's clear that the person hunting demonic beasts wasn't doing it for materials, but rather to vent their emotions. Brother Chen, what do you think? Lin Lei looked at Chen Lin, only to find that the other man's attention wasn't on him, but rather on something else. Roar tilde. Seemingly noticing something, Liu Liu's gaze also turned over, immediately baring its teeth and issuing a warning. Seeing this, Lin Lei stood up, his internal energy surging. Several hundred meters away, a figure was slowly approaching. The figure seemed to be carrying something on its back, moving very slowly. As the distance between them closed, the figure's appearance gradually came into view. It was a muscular young man, his muscles covered in scars, many of them fresh bloodstains, and on his back was the corpse of a second-tier magical beast. Seeing this, Lin Lei and Chen Lin exchanged a glance, their previously tense hearts immediately relaxing. The other party is likely a human martial artist exploring the abyss. It's unclear why they're so frantically hunting magical beasts. Hello, we are an elite team from the Martial Arts Association. We need to investigate why you're hunting magical beasts. When the two sides were about 10 meters apart, Chen Lin, the team leader, stepped forward. However, the other party seemed not to hear him, continuing to advance with their head down. Please cooperate with our work. Seeing this, Chen Lin frowned, but the other party continued on their way as if they hadn't heard him. Chen Lin didn't intend to say anything to this kind of person, so he stepped forward, intending to subdue them first. However, at that moment, Lin Lei suddenly spoke, back off quickly. He's not a human martial artist. This is a demon disguised as a human. As soon as he finished speaking, the tall, burly youth raised his head and hurled the demonic beast corpse he was carrying at Chen Lin as a weapon. To the astonishment of the crowd, the human skin on the youth's body suddenly ripped apart, revealing a massive, dark red body. The demonic seed has appeared. It's a demon seed. Lin Lei's voice trailed off, but the demon seed was far too close to Chen Lin. In an instant, the demon seed, poised to strike, was before Chen Lin. Boom, an arm as thick as an adult's thigh struck Chen Lin's chest, sending the fourth-tier martial artist flying backward, coughing up blood. This was the terrifying power of the demon seed. They were born fighting machines. Captain. Seeing the blurry image on Chen Lin's chest, Liu Xuan and Mo Ru were completely thrown into disarray. They had always believed that Chen Lin's strength, while not invincible among those of the same level, was certainly not enough to warrant such a crushing defeat. But now he had been knocked unconscious by a single punch from the demon seed. Although there was an element of surprise attack, the sheer shock of the scene still made their hearts tremble. What kind of terrifying demonic creature was this? Even back in university, they had never witnessed such a terrifying demonic creature. Hey, hi. Seeing its strongest member, Chen Lin, half crippled, the demonic creature let out a chilling laugh. Although it couldn't speak, it could still understand the current situation. The strongest was crippled, and the two relatively strong female warriors, having lost their leader, could be considered to have their strength halved. As for the youngest, although she appeared calm, so what? Weakness was the original sin. However, when its gaze fell on Lin Lei, it noticed Liu Liu standing beside him. It gasped for breath, its eyes wide. The bloodline of this cosmic demon beast instantly made it feel it had encountered the greatest opportunity in its history. The next second, without hesitation, the demonic creature lunged at Lin Lei. However, even facing a demonic creature capable of defeating Chen Lin, Lin Lei remained calm. Liu Liu attacked together. Roar! As Lin Lei's command fell, Liu Liu suddenly roared, its howl echoing throughout the wilderness. Lin Lei narrowed his eyes, his entire body surging with energy, all flowing into his right hand. Bang. To Liu Xuan and Mo Ru's horrified gaze, Lin Lei and the demonic creature collided directly. In their expectations, Lin Lei should have been sent flying by the demonic seed, perhaps even suffering a broken bone, which would have been a minor matter. However, the scene before them left them utterly shocked, because Lin Lei not only didn't fly away, but he was standing still, locked in a stalemate with the demonic seed. How is this possible? Impossible! The two exclaimed in disbelief, but it was true. Lin Lei gritted his teeth and remained locked in a stalemate with the demonic seed. Although he felt like his arm was about to break, he managed to hold on. Even the demonic seed was somewhat surprised. Its strength was something even a third-tier magical beast would find difficult to withstand. How could a second-tier martial artist block its attack? But the next second, it felt a burning sensation in its palm. Lin Lei grinned, revealing a smile, and said indifferently, "Blazing fist." The next second, his fists rained down on the demonic creature like arrows. Although each punch couldn't cause any real damage, each attack made the demonic creature feel as if its body was being burned by flames. It roared, trying to break free from Lin Lei's attack, but Liu Liu, who was supporting it, blocked its retreat, giving it no chance to escape. For a moment, Lin Lei was actually dominating this third-tier demonic creature. Seeing this, Liu Xuan and Mo Ru exchanged a glance, then laid Chen Lin flat on the ground and turned to rush towards the demonic creature. However, the demonic seed was startled by the two's actions. Ignoring Lin Lei's attack, it unleashed its full power in one burst. Roar. Under the burst of blood energy, the terrifying power of the demonic seed was finally fully activated. Its hands grew to the size of palm leaf fans, each movement even carrying a fierce gale. Boom, the demonic seed stomped the ground, forcing Lin Lei to retreat, then turned and fled, its speed as if it wished it had more legs. Seeing this, Liu Xuan bit her lower lip and angrily shouted, "Don't run away if you dare." With that, she prepared to follow. With her speed, catching up with the demonic seed was a sure thing, but at that moment, Lin Lei suddenly spoke. Wait, hearing his voice, Liu Xuan's eyes flashed with anger as she looked over, but Lin Lei's face remained calm, showing no anger. Instead, he said indifferently, "What's the use of chasing after him now? Can you win alone? Isn't there you?" Liu Xuan instinctively retorted. After all, Lin Lei's speed was at least as fast as hers. If the two of them chased after him, they might still be able to capture the demon seed. However, the next second, Lin Lei spread his hands. His hands were a bloody mess with visible white bones. The demon seed's full-force attack had struck Lin Lei directly, tearing a large chunk of flesh from his arm. Even if he chased after him now, his fighting strength would be less than a third of his peak. This might put both of them in danger. Let's go back first. This demon's strength is rather strange. We need to investigate it carefully. Lin Lei could only shake his head, then carried Chen Lin back. Seeing this, Liu Xuan, though angry, could only follow. Back at the Martial Arts Association, Chen Pajun, upon hearing the news, looked panicked and immediately arranged for the best doctor for Chen Lin, fearing for his nephew's safety. What happened? Inside the office, Chen Pajun's expression was serious. He had never seen Chen Lin suffer such severe injuries. In fact, if the opponent had been any stronger, Chen Lin would likely be dead. As for Lin Lei, although he looked calm, but his hands were already wrapped in bandages, and his condition was far from optimistic. "General Chen, it's like this." Finally, Mo Ru decided to tell him the truth. Lin Lei at this moment closed his eyes. Because of his innate demon god body, his wounds were healing rapidly. If he hadn't suppressed his self-healing power on the way back, his body would probably be fully recovered by now. When he opened his eyes, his hands had almost fully recovered, and Mo Ru told him the whole story. After hearing this, Chen Pajun's expression didn't change much. He knew about the appearance of the demon seed. Chen Lin had told him about it, but he hadn't expected this demon seed to be so extraordinary. Not only could it use human skin to pretend to be human, even their judgment of the crisis and the situation was incredibly accurate. After all, although the demon seed retains intelligence, due to its far-reaching influence, it cannot always maintain a rational state. Based on past experience in that state, the demon seed should have fought desperately, so why would it think of retreating? Something's strange. Chen Pajun knew this couldn't be treated as a typical demon seed incident, but he had no better solution at the moment. He looked up at Lin Lei and the other two, his voice low. Chen Lin is injured now, and he probably won't be able to move for half a month. What did you plan to do? Hearing this, the two women exchanged a glance, their beautiful eyes filled with worry. But Lin Lei stood up, only to have Chen Pajun's sharp eyes ask, "Elder Chen, I need a lot of resources to help with my cultivation so I can break through within 3 days. Once you break through, I will immediately enter the Abyss Rift and hunt down this demonic creature. Once I break through, I will completely annihilate that demonic seed." Lin Lei's voice echoed in the room, invigorating Chen Pajun. Chen Lin had been defeated, but Lin Lei had not. He even seemed capable of directly confronting the demonic seed. If he breaks through to the 3rd tier, he might truly be able to kill the demonic seed. "All right, just tell me what you need." Moved by Lin Lei's courage, Chen Pajun only hesitated for a moment before immediately agreeing. Seeing this, Lin Lei didn't stand on ceremony and directly wrote down the cultivation materials he needed. 3rd-tier demonic beast blood aside, this was essential for cultivating the dragon elephant body refining technique. The more qi and blood pills, the better. Otherwise, if his qi and blood were insufficient, he could replenish them with pills. As for precious spiritual plants, Lin Lei was even more unreserved. He wrote down almost everything his body could handle. It wasn't because he was greedy, but to ensure his breakthrough, he needed to be well prepared. After all, his foundation was incredibly solid, making a breakthrough much more difficult than for others. The last breakthrough was thanks to the system's reward. This time, he had to do it himself. Chen Pajin was very generous with the materials Lin Lei needed, immediately ordering double the quantity from the Demon Suppression Army's warehouse. Shortly after, when Lin Lei entered a training room, he found the materials piled up in front of him almost like a small mountain. Heh, if I can't break through even with this, then my innate demon god body is useless. Lin Lei smiled faintly. He then took out the previously prepared magical beast corpse from his storage bead and handed it to Liu. Since he was going to cultivate, Liu, as his magical beast, couldn't fall behind in its cultivation progress. Watching Liu begin to devour the magical beast corpse, Lin Lei lay down directly in the magical beast blood soaked with medicinal herbs, calmed his mind, and began to circulate the dragon elephant body refining technique. A continuous stream of qi and blood energy flowed into his meridians, and Lin Lei felt his body undergoing a continuous transformation under the influence of the qi and blood. Third-tier martial artists are different from second-tier martial artists. The theoretical lifespan of a third-tier martial artist is several times that of a second-tier martial artist. 40 or 50 years old is considered underage in the lifespan of a third-tier martial artist. Therefore, reaching the third-tier martial artist level is almost a sublimation of life level. However, all of this is calculated based on the difference between third-tier and second-tier magical beasts. The specific data mapping to human martial artists is still uncertain. However, just as his cultivation progress was slowly increasing, Lin Lei suddenly frowned. He actually felt that his blood and qi were flowing smoothly without any obstruction, breaking through to the third rank. What's going on? Although he broke through to the third rank, Lin Lei did not stop cultivating. Instead, he continued to circulate his cultivation technique to stabilize his realm. However, he felt very puzzled. Why did he break through to the third rank so easily? Could it be because of last time? Suddenly, he remembered his reaction after his last breakthrough. That time, his life force was almost overflowing, allowing his life level to reach a higher realm. Perhaps that was the reason he was able to break through smoothly this time. Thinking of this, Lin Lei felt he had grasped some of the true essence of how martial artists could break through realms. However, he had already exhausted all the demonic beast blood. Continuing to absorb it would be a waste of effort. Never mind. He opened his eyes and found that the once bright red demonic beast blood was now almost transparent. He had absorbed nearly 5 tons of third-tier demonic beast blood completely. As for the materials within, not even a trace remained. Roar. Just then, Lin Lei suddenly heard a noise from the side. He saw Liu swallow the last piece of dragon-armored wild boar flesh, and then its body began to swell. Although its fur was torn and flesh was oozing blood, the aura emanating from its body grew increasingly terrifying. Finally, what appeared before Lin Lei was no longer the tender cub, but a ferocious tiger beast that reached his shoulder height and was 4 or 5 meters long. I didn't expect you to have broken through to the second tier as well. Now you have a bit more confidence in dealing with that demonic creature. Although Liu's appearance had become more imposing, Lin Lei knew that it was still his companion. He smiled and led Liu out of the training room, only to find Chen Pajin and the others already waiting outside. Even Chen Lin, who was still recovering from serious injuries, was being pushed around, seemingly eager to know how Lin Lei's breakthrough had gone. How was it? Seeing Lin Lei come out, Chen Pajin couldn't help but ask, although it had only been 2 short days. But the news of the past few days had left him overwhelmed. The demonic seeds began their relentless slaughter, and small-scale monster hordes were occurring one after another, turning the entire spatial rift into chaos. If Lin Lei didn't break through, he would have no choice but to organize other teams for a thorough search. However, the cost would be too high, and he wouldn't consider it unless absolutely necessary. Success. Lin Lei nodded, and Liu behind him also showed a proud expression. Hearing this, Chen Pajin was overjoyed. Come, let's go test it. He hurriedly pulled Lin Lei to test various data points, wanting to know just how strong this young man had become. Chen Lin also stared wide-eyed, his heart clenched violently. How long has it been? Lin Lei has already broken through to the third-tier martial artist. If he were given another 3 or 4 years, he might become the youngest 7th-tier or even 8th-tier martial artist in history. The group arrived at the testing machine with excited and anxious hearts, and Lin Lei immediately entered. The Martial Arts Association's testing machine is very comprehensive. It can not only test a martial artist's current data, but also compare it with the previous data. Countdown begins 10. Lin Lei directly pressed the test button and began to wait for the time to run out. 3.2. 0.1.0. When the timer reached 0, Lin Lei's attack was as swift as lightning, instantly unleashing all his strength into a single point. Bang, a loud bang rang out, and the data on the testing machine began to jump rapidly. 10 tons, 15 tons, 20 tons. Numbers appeared quickly, then were replaced by the next, their speed soaring almost like a rocket. Could it be breaking 25 tons? Hard to say. Chen Lin's punching power, when he broke through to the third-tier martial artist level, was only 24 tons. Lin Lei should be 3 or 4 tons higher, right? Perhaps, wait, it's already 29 tons, why hasn't it stopped yet? While everyone was still discussing whether Lin Lei's punching power limit was 25 tons or 28 tons, they were surprised to find that the value had begun to jump towards 30 tons. Finally, the number on the screen slowly stopped at 30.12 tons. This also means that Lin Lei, who has just broken through to the third-tier martial artist level, has already reached the limit of power for a typical peak third-tier martial artist. Instantly, everyone stared at Lin Lei in stunned silence, their mouths agape. In their eyes, Lin Lei, this young man who had just graduated from high school, was even more terrifying than Chen Pajun. Because the destruction caused by such a powerful martial artist could completely plunge the entire Hejiang city into chaos. 30 tons. After hearing this number, Chen Lin was dumbfounded. His talent was already terrifying enough. Some even speculated that the maximum punching power of a third-tier early-stage martial artist was about 29 tons. But Lin Lei, that guy, not only easily broke his record, but even broke the theoretical limit. Truly a monster. Chen Lin gritted his teeth, his face filled with astonishment. He thought he was already exceptionally talented, but Lin Lei's talent could mercilessly crush him. At this moment, Lin Lei slowly withdrew his right hand, his face still calm. This punch was almost his full strength, but he knew he hadn't reached his limit yet. The dragon-elephant body-refining technique is no longer enough. If I were to get another cultivation technique, the power of this punch would increase even further. A glint of light flashed in Lin Lei's eyes. Obtaining a cultivation technique now would be easy. He could simply ask Chen Pajun. However, he had just taken a large amount of materials a couple of days ago. If he were to ask for a technique again, even if Chen Pajun was willing to give it to him, he would likely be dissatisfied. Besides, Lin Lei had said that once he broke through to the third rank of martial artist, he would enter the abyss to slay the demonic seed. Cultivating a new technique now would probably take quite some time. Forget it, I'll come back for the technique after slaying the demonic seed. Besides, I'm getting stronger, and perhaps that demonic seed is also constantly evolving. According to the system's prompts, this guy can grow to the 7th rank. It's best to kill him as soon as possible. After some thought, Lin Lei decided it was best to enter the abyss rift first. He looked up at Chen Pajun, his face resolute. Elder Chen, I will enter the abyss rift now to slay the demon seed. I, Lin Lei, swear I will not turn back until this demon seed is slain. Hearing his firm tone, Chen Pajun's smile gradually faded, his gaze sweeping over him seriously before he nodded emphatically. This demon seed absolutely had to be killed, otherwise the entire abyss rift in Hejiang City would be turned upside down. With Chen Pajun's approval, Lin Lei no longer hesitated and headed directly to the abyss rift with Liu Liu. Last time, even as a second-tier martial artist, he could fight the demon seed to a standstill. This time, he had broken through to the third rank and was determined to completely annihilate that demonic seed. Not long after, Lin Lei's figure appeared in the abyss rift. However, this time, he was dressed in a sharp black outfit, making him stand out like a drawn sword. This was part of his plan from the beginning. Finding the demonic seed himself was like finding a needle in a haystack, but if the demonic seed came looking for him, it would be incredibly easy. The last encounter had already made his opponent remember his aura, and with his deliberate release of his blood energy, it would be strange if his opponent didn't notice him, Lin Lei. He walked through the martial artist camp and found it in ruins. The impact of the demonic beast tide had turned this place into almost complete ruins. If they hadn't evacuated beforehand, even the researchers in the underground research lab would likely have perished here. This demonic beast is truly troublesome. Looking at the surrounding ruins and the gnawed corpses on the ground, a cold glint flashed in Lin Lei's eyes. Although he wasn't a saint, the scene before him was still too horrific. He was, after all, a human martial artist, forever on the opposite side of these destructive demonic beasts in the abyss. Amidst the ruins, Lin Lei's aura was like a beacon in the darkness, attracting the attention of those bloodthirsty demonic beasts. Roar! A second-tier demonic beast leaped out, its target Lin Lei's neck. However, the next second, Lin Lei threw a punch, the powerful force of which cleaved the beast in two. The terrifying power of his blood and chi pulverized the remaining corpse, making it impossible to discern the beast's original appearance. Behind Lin Lei, the soldiers of the demon suppression army, following at a distance, swallowed hard. They had witnessed the power of third-tier martial artists before, but none of them could achieve this, let alone pulverizing a beast with a single punch. Even instantly killing a second-tier beast would be difficult. Truly terrifying. This strength is probably comparable to those guys in the Overwatch Guard. Don't talk nonsense, not everyone in the Overwatch Guard is strong. Exactly, I've sparred with the Overwatch Guard before, and I'm far inferior to this guy. Well, the many soldiers of the Demon Suppression Army were all speechless, even comparing Lin Lei to the members of the Guard. The Guard was an extremely special unit, mainly responsible for maintaining discipline within the Demon Suppression Army and hunting down traitors. Within the Demon Suppression Army in various regions, the Guard was practically synonymous with strength. Even so, they still believed Lin Lei was superior. It wasn't that they thought the Guard was weak, but rather that Lin Lei's strength was terrifying, far exceeding their imagination. Sigh, what a waste of materials. Unlike the soldiers of the Demon Suppression Army, Chu Kuang watched Lin Lei slaughter one demonic beast after another, his face showing heartache. These demonic beast corpses were all materials that could be used for cultivation and weapon crafting. Lin Lei's actions were utterly wasteful. However, Lin Lei was unaware of their thoughts, or rather, even if he knew, he wouldn't react. He only had one thought in mind, to find that demonic creature and kill it, not only to restore order here, but also to prevent it from growing to the 7th rank. I know you've been observing from behind. Come out and fight if you dare. Lin Lei was practically killing a demonic beast every 10 steps. His body was now soaked in blood, making him look like a demon god who had emerged from hell. His cold voice echoed through the wilderness. Although he didn't name names, everyone knew that the creature Lin Lei was referring to was the demonic creature. Ha, didn't you want to increase your strength? Kill me. That must be more effective than devouring 1,000 demonic beasts. Transforming yourself into a demonic seed isn't your goal to gain power. What's the point of hiding now? Or do you think that even as a member of the Abyss, you won't be my match? With each word Lin Lei spoke, his aura intensified. When he uttered the last sentence, his aura reached its peak. In the eyes of the Demon Suppression Army soldiers, Lin Lei at this moment was not a drawn sword, but a towering pillar. Roar! Just as they were wondering if the demonic seed would be provoked, a roar came from afar. Looking around, dozens of demonic beasts rushed towards them in a panic, and behind them, a dark figure controlled the beasts' advance like a wolf herding sheep. Seeing this, Lin Lei smiled. He wasn't afraid of confronting the demonic creatures head-on. What he feared was their silence. Since you've come, leave your lives behind. Lin Lei smiled contemptuously, and the gluttonous rings on his hands instantly activated. Then he leaped forward, propelling himself like a spring towards the horde of demonic beasts. The horde of beasts surged forward, destroying everything in their path like a tidal wave. Seeing this, the Demon Suppression Army, following far behind, was immediately restless. The beast tide is coming again, let's go help. A Demon Suppression Army soldier stepped forward, ready to charge. After all, one person's fighting power was too weak against a beast tide. However, before he could move, a stern voice rang out, "Don't move." Everyone turned to look and saw Chen Pajun standing behind them, a serious expression on his face as he looked ahead. Lin Lei didn't ask for help. None of you are allowed to go and help. Hearing his words, everyone could only forcefully suppress their restless hearts. There's no other way. As the supreme leader of the Demon Suppression Army in Heijiang City, everyone must obey Chen Pajun's orders. They looked at Lin Lei, hoping this young man could find a way out of this predicament. Lin Lei, like a streak of light, charged directly into the horde of demonic beasts and began a massive slaughter. Kill. Lin Lei's eyes were filled with rage. The Taoti ring in his hand was like the scythe of death. Each activation meant the death of a demonic beast. To stop the demonic beasts, Liu Liu also used the roar of the tiger to stop them, managing to hold back 4 or 5 demonic beasts. Boom. With Lin Lei's full force strike, The demonic beast blocking the front was instantly severed in half by him, becoming an obstacle in the path of the advancing horde. Lin Lei then seized the opportunity, weaving through the chaotic ranks of the demonic beasts, his target the demonic seed directly behind him. To capture the leader, first capture the leader. Once the demonic seed is killed, the demonic beast tide will end. Roar. Seeing Lin Lei charging towards it, the demonic seed's face instantly contorted with rage. It had suffered a loss at Lin Lei's hands last time, and now, seeing its enemy, its eyes blazed with fury. It had no intention of backing down. Moreover, after these days of frantic devouring, its power had undergone a qualitative leap compared to a few days ago. Dealing with Lin Lei seemed like child's play to it. The demonic seed raised its right hand, its entire body's energy gathering in its palm. Then it threw a punch, aiming directly at Lin Lei's face. However, in Lin Lei's eyes, although its opponent seemed aggressive, it was riddled with weaknesses. Heh, trying to outmuscle me, think again. He snorted coldly, then channeled his ninefold thunder force. Bang. The two fists collided, unleashing a deafening roar that could be heard even by Chen Pajun, hundreds of meters away. The violent impact created a gust of wind, even kicking up dust. Roar! However, the demonic seed clutched its hand and staggered backward. Although it wasn't injured, Lin Lei's attack had left its arm numb, and for some reason, a sense of danger even crept into its heart, as if the one standing before it wasn't a human martial artist, but a ferocious demonic beast. Where do you think you're going? Lin Lei, seeing this, refused to let it go. He immediately used the Thunder Shadow Step to step forward, unleashing the second form of the Ninefold Thunder Force with both hands. However, although the demonic creature was weaker than him in strength, its defense was terrifyingly powerful. Even though Lin Lei slapped it in the chest, sending it flying, he still couldn't harm it in the slightest. The demonic creature even used the force of the blow to retreat backward, seemingly only wanting to escape. Although Lin Lei didn't know why the creature had lost all fighting spirit, he knew that this was the best time to annihilate the demonic creature. Thinking of this, Lin Lei disregarded whether the creature had